Good morning and welcome to the studio. What an absolute pleasure to have your company here today. Welcome. Today we're going to be painting a pretty big scene. My goodness, I don't know what I've got myself in for, but this thing here is 54 to 60 inches. I forget which one, by 36. And so quite a big scene. No, 40 inches. So, well, you can see how big it is compared to me. I'm going to attempt to block this whole thing in this session, but you know, my OGs that are watching today, they know me. They'll be looking at it going, yeah, you got no chance, buddy. But anyway, really great to see you here. It's amazing. I'm just so blown away, you know, by how many people are tuning into these things and from all over the world. You know, we got Aussies in the house. We've got people from the United States, the UK, France. I even saw Chile in here. So shout out to all my peeps over there in Chile. So welcome. Now, look, I'm here as an artist and an art instructor to answer your questions. So just hit me up in that live chat. And one of the ways that you're going to get my attention, I know it's a little bit weird, but if you type in 3 capital Qs, as I'm scrolling, I'll see it and I'll try and get to you. Or you can tag me and it highlights my name there in the live chat. So I'll do my best to get through as many questions as possible. But if I miss you, then hey, look, you can always catch the Academy VIP live stream, which is tomorrow, where we're going to be carrying on with this same scene. But I'll tell you more about that during this live stream. All right, so what on earth are we going to be painting? Well, this one's going to be a little bit different. Check out your screen down here, right? Okay, so what I've got here, I'm going to explain to you what this is. This one right here, this thing here is my color study, all right? This color study is basically a little tiny oil painting, and tiny, like that big. It's not big at all. And then this thing right here, that's my reference material. But my references for this project, I've got them over here on my iPad in the corner, and there's about a dozen odd references from different parts of New Zealand. Now, if you're curious about the location of this painting, this area that I'm painting, this is a rocky amphitheater that you used to be able to pull off and see and even walk up to, but they've since blocked it off. But it's right outside the Homer Tunnel, just before you drop into Milford Sound in the South Island of New Zealand. And I've been sitting on this reference for many, many years. And I've got this reference from different times of year, different seasons and different atmospheric conditions. And I've kind of just compiled all that, put it all together to come up with this concept that I'm just so freaking stoked on. I'm so excited about this project. So should we get into it? Let me talk to you about some of the colors that I'm using over here. And here's what I got on my palette. Now, whenever I'm starting my painting and blocking in, what I'm doing more and more these days is I'm taking a simplified approach to color, and I'm really paring back that palette. For those that follow me and have been following along on Tish Academy and watching some of those long form demonstrations, there's a lot of material there. You'll notice as I get further in the painting process, this range expands. It gets so much more broad, particularly with my yellows, oranges, and reds, and also my blues. But here, I'm going to be able to do most of what I need to do today. getting a sense of form, depth, light, and material through this use of color. So what have we got here? For those of you taking notes, you might want to go back and watch a little bit of a replay on this if you're unsure about these colors. But what have we got? We got burnt umber, transparent red oxide, raw sienna, and I'll explain some of these in a little more detail. Titanium white, Hansa yellow, cadmium red light. We've got quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, and phthalo green. Now, the oil paints that I use, I'm always asked about the brand that I use. I use Blue Ridge. These are handmade oil colors made in Asheville, North Carolina by an absolute color genius, Eric Silver. So shout out to Eric. This is all I use. I love these. Now, they come in smaller tubes, of course, if you're looking for a more economical, option. But I like the big tubes, and because I tend to paint big and I go through a lot of this stuff. But it is worth its weight in gold. Beautiful oil paint. So shout out to Eric. Now, right here, these colors, this will get me most of the way. Now, I just want to explain a couple of these before we really get into it. The reason for the raw sienna, because many people follow me and be like, hey, dude, what's up? Why don't you use yellow ochre anymore? I found that this is actually getting me a better result with some of the effects that I'm going for. It adds a really nice warmth. That yellow ochre was incredibly opaque. Now, raw sienna here, made by Blue Ridge, is still pretty opaque, but it's got a more delicate tinting. But it's where it sits on the color wheel. It's a slightly redder yellow. So I'm actually really appreciating that. Transparent red oxide instead of burnt sienna, I'm finding is a little more versatile and a little bit more of a pungent staining and tinting of some of my other mixes. I'm going to be using this a lot also for my shadows. Now, because it's transparent, it's not going to raise the value of a lot of these shadow mixes. If I'm getting too technical, no worries. Just might have to join the academy and jump in with us. Anyway, Hansa yellow. There we go. This one right here, beautiful warm yellow, very transparent. And so that one is really going to help me with mixing any of the greens that I need in this scene. But when you look at the references and you look at this type of scene, and you see there, where are we? Right here with this reference right here, there's not a lot of green going on. And so I can make a decision right up front about, what my arrangement of colors is going to be there. Should we get started? Only one white, Lynn Barker, right out of the gates with a question. So for the block-in, yeah, I'm only going to be using one white. I'm going to be using titanium. And one of the reasons is I want to simplify this for the demonstration. I could, Lynn, get out my Kremnitz white or Flemish white here, but I've also just come off the back of doing our first demos. Shout out to my Academy peeps over there. We've just finished our first demos. I just finished my first demos for the beginner's tree course. So I'm really excited about that. We've got pine, willow, and gum trees. So my Academy peeps, you're going to be able to check that out very soon. But I've simplified the palette over here, right? I just have that titanium white there because I just wanted to not confuse the situation with a whole bunch of other options. But also right out of the gates, look, I painted professionally with just titanium for years and years and years. So we're going to rock that for this block-in. All right, let's get into it. Let's get into it. It's so good to see so many people here. Good morning, Janice. How are you? Techno Dad in the house. G'day, Rick. How are you? Good to see you. It seems like I'm in a box or mono sounding. Okay, I'll have my tech guy, Nick, check it out. He's on the decks currently. Are you painting on a stretched canvas? Great question, Tamara. Yes, I am. I'm painting on a stretched, well, it's a linen canvas. So it's linen. And Tamara, hit me up, Tamara. Hit me up in about 30 minutes, okay? You can keep up to date with me there in the chat because I'm recording this as well. So yeah, I got my guy Nick checking on the sound thing there. Rick? Cool. Yep, got it tomorrow. Awesome. Okay. Here we go. Go, Nick, go. Yeah. They're cheering you on, Nick. All right, let's go ahead and mix up a little bit of color here. Now, you will notice right here on my linen that there are no sketch lines or anything. So I'm actually just going to have some fun with this, and I'm going to draw directly onto the painting. And I'm following that design that you saw there on your screen, or maybe you can still see it. We tracking, Nick? We doing all right, bud? Yep. No worries. He's onto it. It's so nice to have help in the studio here, especially with things of a technological nature that I scarcely understand. Now, the cool thing about this, I get these comments all the time about oils. I'd love to try oils, but it's just so complicated. How do you navigate your way through all that complexity? So this is my jam. I found a way that we can simplify the approach where it's actually pretty dang easy. I find this to be one of the easiest mediums. And that's just because I've simplified the process to a point where it removes a lot of that complication. Now, one of the things that helps me is that medium right there, which is Liquin Original. Now, some people love to hate on Liquin. I think it's fantastic. I only use just a little bit in there to aid the drying time. This means that I can go over and layer on top of this the very next day. I also have, by the way, some of you might have been wondering, what is that little gelatinous lump right there? That is Liquin Impasto. Similar constituents, but maybe just different ratios, but this retains brush texture if I require a little thickness in my strokes. Now, to begin with, I'm not getting any details. I'm not thinking about painstakingly drafting in outlines. I'm looking for big shapes right now. Big shapes. Where are my big shapes going? Where's my focal point? So I'm following along with what you see there in that little color study, and I'm just looking for those big areas, big shapes, big focal points. And then from there, we can tighten it up. I'm also, with this combination of burnt umber and quinacridone magenta, using a synthetic filbert brush, I'm working pretty lightly. I'm not pressing hard at all. And I'm moving pretty quick too. Now, one of the ways, if you're having trouble loosening up, if you're intimidated by this sort of approach, may I suggest try holding your brush with an overhand grip and stand at arm's length from your canvas. So this way, this kind of forces you to make, instead of tiny little strokes going like this, I'm going to paint the outline of that cloud. If this is you, let me know in the chat. Now, no shame, but if this is you and drawing in takes ages, let me know, okay? We tracking? Is it okay?
Yeah.
Yep, sweet. He's fixed it. Shout out to Nick. Everybody show Nick some love in the chat. So instead of tiny little micro movements with your wrist and fingers, it's almost like you're fencing, with your sword. You, on guard. Now, I love it when I'm working on a big canvas like this. I love being in a position where I can just step back in the studio, walk away, step back, and just get a sense of my balance of shapes. It's not creepy at all to tell a stranger you love them, right? Not at all, Rhiannon. I love you too. Right. Work has finally allowed me to watch one live and not record. Dude, John, welcome. I'm glad you're catching it live. Excellent. Okay, Angus has got a question. As I'm a beginner, when should I paint plein air? Go for it now. It surely must be easier to paint in situ than from a photo. Actually, I don't think so, Angus. And one of the reasons why is because with plein air, right, you are basically, you've got a limited window of time. You've got like 2 hours, 3 hours, before that scene's going to completely change based on the light shifting. So it's not just a fixed moment. But what it is good for is those techniques of working from direct observation. Fantastic question. We got a load of plein air content on the Academy. But again, I'll tell you about that in a little bit. All right, so let's carry on. Where was I? Oh, yeah, Zorro. Let's go. Shall I move this one back now? Yeah, would that help? Am I peeking on this one? Yeah, okay, cool. I'm so excited about this scene, just because of the drama of it. It's such an extreme landscape, like a sheer rock wall. But in some of my references, I didn't have, and my Academy students have got access to those references now. They can download them copyright and royalty free. So if you want to follow along, you can. So you'll notice in some of those photographs that we don't have this mist that's rising out of the valley, but in some it is there, but the light angle's slightly different. But I love this because it rescues the painting from this overabundance of just sharp, harsh rock, just this huge rock wall. So it breaks it up in a nice way, and it also breaks up foreground, midground, background in a nice way. Though that said, there's not a lot of midground going on. It just goes from foreground to this boom cliff. I'm reminded of that scene out of The Princess Bride as the Sicilian is talking about the cliffs of insanity. A little bit like that. It feels a little bit like a cliff of insanity. If you've never been to New Zealand, it's so amazing. It's an incredible place to gather inspiration, and it's a sort of landscape that will change your life. And so, I've been collecting references because I've been living here for many years now. But what I'm amazed at is how much that landscape changes over the years. Well, sorry, over the years, over the seasons, over the course of a year. But there's never a bad time to see it. But what I'll do is I'll combine my references, and I might take some cues from those references and go, well, in the spring when we get a little bit more rain, a lot of these waterfalls show up. And when you're in this area, you'll just see in that rainy season that there's just thousands of waterfalls just spilling down these cliff walls. And so I want to add a bit of that vibe. Not thousands, but certainly a few. Now, I could easily overcomplicate the scene. I made a decision in that little color study that what I was going to do is boil it down, narrow it down to one waterfall that was going to be dominant, and then have a few subordinate waterfalls. So a few that are going to play second and third fiddle to this main one. And the other thing, because the focal point and the subject is going to be this silvery waterfall that's coming down this cliff here, the placement of that's really important. Getting it away from the edge, getting it out of the middle, because a lot of people I'll see, they'll put their focal point, they'll put their main subject matter right in the middle of the painting. And that can really make things difficult if we're trying to find that asymmetrical balance. So you've seen how I mix that color. I'm just going to go to just the wide shot here, and we'll go ahead and block in some of this foreground and find those shapes. Now, I've done something in the meantime. I've taken my color study. I've been thinking about it. I've had it up for several months of cook time. And there's some things I love about it, but there's also some things that I'm struggling with, if I'm honest, just from a design point of view. It comes down to the distribution of shapes and also some of the angles that we have on those shapes. Now, I like this rock down here in the bottom left. We need it. It's kind of an anchor in the composition. It really balances out that waterfall, I feel, but it's just a little bit too much of a cube. So what I'm going to do is maybe give it a little bit more of a shark nose shape on the front edge. My Academy students are going to love that. Now they're going to see sharks and goodness knows what else. Yeah, I know. They troll me every week in the live streams, but that's all right. I can take it. But one of the other things that I really wanted to add here is a bit more to the story. So right here, we've got this, what you can't see. Here, let's bring it in here. Here's a reference. Okay, so that color study that's right here. Okay, right there. You see it? Right. There's a bit of foreground in that one. And what I want to add in here is a little bit of a reflecting pool and just a little cascade. It's a nice little detail, but it's not going to draw the eye too much. It's going to be that sort of thing that the viewer will look at and be like, oh, that's cool. I see a bear. Of course you see a bear, Rhiannon. Of course you do. It's a spaceship. Right, whatever. Watching Andrew makes me want to paint rocks. He's just got it down. I don't know, Chad. Give it time, brother. Give it time. But thank you. I'm sorry for asking, but is the thumbnail image AI? Oh, no. Don't be sorry for asking. Thank you for asking. Thank you for asking. No, the thumbnail image on the video was my reference run through. But I tell you what, and full disclosure, I ran it through and I put in a prompt and I put in a filter. Hey, take my reference material, and turn it into something that looks like this artist. So full disclosure, yeah, I did it to kind of get an idea of what the final painting could look like ish. But I want to show you something here. Am I using it as reference? No. Check this out. Now I'm going to show you right here on the live stream. Let's go to it. All right. Okay. Nick, I broke my thing. I broke my thing, bro. Oh, bro, I broke my thing. Oh, whatever. It's for the video. We'll do it live. All right, let's go to this. Let's go to art close. Okay, cool. Here's my reference file right here. So I'm not using it as my reference. This is what I got for my reference. Okay, these are my photographs that I got sitting on my iPad over here. And you can see those different seasons. So these are all photographs that have been taken since 2009 all the way to present day. And then the last image in there is my waterfall, which is my oil study. And they're also from slightly different areas. So this is just at the base of Mount Cook. I love the rocks, I love the angles, some nice shapes in there. And then that's my final oil study. But the reason I'm glad you asked, so I did use it for the thumbnail. I'm going to stop doing it. I'm going to stop doing it because, to be honest, I just don't like AI, period. I don't like it, period. It gives me the heebie-jeebies. I am going to try and fix my thing, so just give me 1 second because I've knocked off this blooming bracket, dude. Good. Sweet. Got it. Excellent. Bear with me. I'm just going to put my iPad back on. Sorry about this, but it saves me having to hold stuff while I paint. You know what I mean? Oh, dude, it barely holds my iPad. Can you talk about what you have on your plein air palette, please? Plastic storage crate I use. Yeah, sure. Absolutely. That's a good question. Well, first of all, I think it helps reducing the palette because when you reduce the palette, you don't have to carry so much, especially if you're doing any hiking like I'm doing. And you're going up into some of these areas, you don't want to be carrying a lot of weight with you. I also, a little trick is I don't take full tubes with me because they weigh a lot. Every little bit of weight actually counts, especially when you're taking food and water and camera gear, you know, and on top of your painting. So reduce the palette. I'm definitely taking burnt umber. I'm definitely taking white, but I found plein air. I really like to take transparent yellow oxide. So those are my two earths with titanium white. And then I'm also taking maybe a cadmium yellow, like a cadmium lemon. That's a good one to take. And then I get straight into my reds. I'll take a cadmium red, but I'll only use just a tiny little bit. Quinacridone magenta, ultramarine blue, and cobalt teal, as well as phthalo green. So pretty much that arrangement there, but I've swapped out the Hansa yellow for cadmium lemon. So if I mix a little transparent yellow oxide in with the cadmium lemon and get a nice warm yellow, but very earthy, yeah, it's limited. it might not be the complete extended range, but there's enough high key, high chroma stuff there that I can do most combinations. How do you clean up at the end of your plein air trip? Ashley, great question. So I've got a little bit of Gamsol back in the studio. So when I come home, I just rinse my brushes in some Gamsol. If I'm going out for several days, I'll take a leak spill proof container with me. There's some really great ones that you can get from the art store. It's like a little stainless steel puddle with a rubber gasket inside, and that works really great. And by the way, I've got my composition most of the way there. Can you tell what's going on? Is this nuts? Can you even see it? Bro, do you even block in, bro? Do you even sketch, bro? Look at this. All right, so maybe I can give you a little bit more information here, but I can see this. All I want to see, the point of this exercise right now is big shapes, big stuff. No details, but just big stuff. Now, look, if I'm working on something critical, if it's going to be a commission or something where it's design specific. Right now I'm just playing. You and I are just chopping it up. But if somebody was commissioning it and I got approval on a design, I might do something like project that design onto the canvas. Not my photo, although if that's something you do, no shade, it's all good. As long as you're painting, I'm cool with you. As long as you've got a brush in your hand, you're fine. You do whatever you want. But what I teach and what I talk about on the Academy are these traditional techniques. But I will project that design up there. Now, for people that are a bit iffy about projecting your design or projecting your drawing, remember the old masters did this. No, they didn't have a digital projector, but they had something which was kind of similar. They could have used a camera obscura, they could have used a grid, they could have used pinpoint system, but there are other ways that they would have transferred that drawing up there. So there's nothing wrong with projecting your design, your drawing. I feel a little different about it, projecting a photograph and tracing that off. But again, if that's your mode, then as long as you're painting, we're all good. And on that note, I think people get a little bit bogged down and tied up in rules. So it's an interesting one. Now, sure, I set some parameters for myself on how I like to work, just because I feel more satisfaction and a little bit more pride and fulfillment when I've done the work myself. And this is why I shy away from things like AI generated images. Now, for the thumbnail, again, for those who weren't paying attention to what I actually said, it was my reference plugged into a filter. I wasn't saying to AI, hey, ChatGPT, make me a waterfall, okay? For those that saw that AI video I put out a couple of years back and going, hang on a second, I thought you said, well, you, sir. Yeah, all right, so we're clear, it's all good. You know what comment sections are like, it's all good. What do you mean I'm getting defensive? Are you in the new studio? I am in the new studio. Brand new studio. I'm coming to you from Wanaka, New Zealand. So this is a brand new setup. And if you're thinking it looks exactly like the old setup, it kind of is very similar to the old setup. But I like this one a lot better. And the gallery's a lot nicer, I can tell you. It's awesome. So yeah, new one. Yeah, it looks like I've started a little bit of a chat there. Have I opened a tin of worms? Maybe. All right. Okay, we're still recording on cameras. So just getting a little bit more information down for what the heck is going on with my foreground. Big rocks, big shapes. We'll talk a little bit more about shapes and shape design and distribution of shapes maybe a little bit later on. If I forget to mention it, just hit me up. But it's important in terms of getting the right distribution of shapes, something that looks pleasing to the eye. It's something that looks natural. One of the things we can do as artists whenever we're inventing stuff and manipulating our reference and trying to come up with something that's unique and trying to find a way to balance, one of the things we can do is, if I was painting rocks here, I'd be like, okay, I want a rock here, and I want to put another rock here, and I want to put another rock here, and I'll put another rock here, I'll put another rock there, I'll put another rock there. And what have I done? I've created the same shape over and over and over and over and over again, creating repetition. So one of the ways you can break this is with your big, medium, small rule and that distribution of shapes. So a few big shapes, a few more medium shapes, and lots of little shapes. That's one way to do it. Turns out that rocks falling down a slope are actually going to break up in that way as well. You'll notice on a debris field or a scree slope, you've got a few big boulders, just a few. You've got a few more medium-sized chunky rocks, and you got a whole lot of little rocks. So I try to think about that. And even though I've got a lot of little rocks and those little rocks might repeat, I try to make the angles and the shapes and the lines slightly different. All right. So here in the foreground, we're going to see a little bit of a stream coming out, a little bit of a cascade amongst some rocks. I've got enough foreground there to play with. That's going to be cool. Now, I'm working in the studio here. One of the things I like to do is work with whatever's furthest away and bring the scene forward. But I'm not going to do that today. I'm actually going to start with our rocky cliff wall and get some of our darker values in there. So for this, I'm going to switch to this brush here. I absolutely love this brush. If you haven't played with these yet, check them out. There should be a link in the description down below. If not, I'll make sure this happens for the replay. But this is the Tish dagger. This one here is 5/8 of an inch. Really beautiful size. 1 inch is pretty good, but it's a little bit on the chunky side. It's pretty chunky. So I go with the 5/8. Now, the thing I love about this brush is that point on the end, but it's the blade. And look at the thinness of that profile as you look straight down there. So this thing is just so versatile. Now, I basically give this brush here credit for my technique in speeding me up in the initial block in. But when it comes to detail, it's a phenomenal brush. Let me see if I can find one. I'll actually paint some details with this thing. Here we go. So in terms of comparing those sizes, there's your 5/8 and then there's a 1/4 inch. Now, to be honest, smaller than a 1/4 inch, I wouldn't buy. I think that should be the smallest one. In fact, I'm going to chat to Rosemary about that and say, anything below a 1/4 inch, let's get rid of it, because that 1/4 inch, that's the sweet spot. That's beautiful for details. Now, you're not going to get razor sharp lines. That's not what it's designed for. What it's designed for is a natural painterly stroke. But anyway, check them out, rosemaryandco.com. They make the brushes that I use. And check out the Tish dagger. All right. Now that's curious. Why did I go for the white? And why am I mixing in burnt umber there into my white and then adding ultramarine blue? Well, our burnt umber and ultramarine blue, they go together to make a neutral gray, almost black. The umber and the ultramarine cancel each other out. I'm always starting every block in here with this combination. My OGs know exactly what I'm talking about. Am I right? So white, umber, and a little bit of ultramarine blue. Oh, by the way, this one's for Daniel Beresford. There we go. Being super sneaky, aren't I, Daniel? Yeah. He said, dude, you'll mention your combination and then you'll do a sneaky number on us. You go, what? Yeah, did you catch that? Okay, nothing sneaky. All right, here we go. Camera switcher. All right. So I'm going to start down here. And it's going to be pretty deep in terms of the tone right off the bat. But then this will give me a base point. So we're going to go a little bit lighter from here and a little bit darker from here. Now I got some rules that I follow to help me maintain and communicate that depth in a scene. Well, one of those things is how I play with value. Let's actually, you know, painters got to paint. And if you want to paint, you got to get out some paint, especially if you want to paint with painterly paint, you got to have lots and lots of paint. And oftentimes I find I'm just starving the palette. I'm just not getting enough out there. Now the initial block in, it's going to have lots and lots of body and material with plenty of texture. I actually think I'm going to do a combination of impasto texture on the final version of this, chunky strokes, but then tight and detailed in just the right places. But for the most part, I'm going to get a bit of structure here with my strokes. Now, we'll form some wet areas in this painting, then work back into that wet surface before it dries. But I've got a window of about 12 hours before this surface becomes unworkable. Now, you can always layer over the top, but it's just that bottom layer won't move. So I've got a limited window of opportunity here. QQQ from Matthew. G'day, Matthew. How are you? Good to see you. I have oil paints from several different manufacturers. That's totally cool. And I noticed recently that one brand uses safflower oil as the binder, while others use linseed. Is it okay to mix those? Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, a lot of colors, they'll change the oil depending on what kind of color it is based on the drying property of that oil. Like, so sometimes linseed oil has a tendency to yellow as it dries. And so that's why you might want to go for safflower if you were, you know, a paint manufacturer making something like white, for instance. You know, so a lot of these colors that I'm using from Blue Ridge have safflower, but a lot of them also have linseed. It just depends on what the pigment is. Can you mix them? Absolutely, you can. For sure you can. Right. Rayleigh in the house. How you doing, Rayleigh? Rayleigh, I DM'd you on the Academy if you haven't seen it yet, but good to see you here. Yeah, okay, and thank you for pointing out that question. I have lost it. That's all good. I'm going to ask Devinder Singh to put your question back in the chat, please. Unless Nick can find it for me. Devinder Singh. All right, let me know. Gee whiz, I've missed a lot of questions today. My bad. I'm going to keep going though. It's a little bit trickier with the YouTube public live stream because there's so many more people. Lots of people. Which is awesome, but it makes it hard to answer all the questions. So I've identified my major boundaries, my major zones, my major shapes. And so I'm just working up to the edges of those zones. I'm going to work either side of this waterfall. Now, I know that the waterfall goes in front of that cliff, right? But, you know, I want a little bit of a shortcut here, a little bit of a cheat code. I'm not going to paint the cliff wall right across and attempt to paint that waterfall over it. No, instead, what I want to do is paint either side of that waterfall, leaving a gap where that white's going to go. And as these rocks come slightly closer towards the viewer, they're going to get slightly darker. I'm imagining this cliff wall is coming slightly further forward. But I'm just avoiding that waterfall either side. All right. Any plans to publish more Creative Endeavor podcasts? Yes, absolutely, Gary. Yep. Yep, you'll find the video versions on the Academy, but yes, I will be at some point. We just wanted to get up and running in the new studio. Already out of ultramarine blue. Let me get a bit more of that. By the way, pleasure to have your company here in the studio today. Thank you for joining me. If you're watching the replay, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed. You have those notifications turned on so you're notified when we go live. All right. Got to get a wiggle on. More paint, more paint. Burnt umber, ultramarine blue, titanium white. Love that combination. Sneaky little extra, right? Bit more burnt umber, bit more ultramarine blue, sneaky little something else. There we go. That's nice. All right. Daniel over there is like, dude, quit trolling me. Really enjoyed our chat yesterday, brother. It was awesome. All right. I'm trying to actually work that paint. I'm using the brush almost like it was an icing spatula and I was decorating a cake. I'm troweling it down and I'm trying to get all that paint off the brush. Now, I hold it blade side and I can define the edge of a shape. And then you can like work up to that edge and fill it in. So you can get a little bit of precision there by working in that fashion. Let's go ahead and go to our close-up and work a little bit more over to the, I'll add a little bit more to that left, or sorry, the right side, and then we'll go over to the towards the left. Palette cam? Yeah? Huh? He's rolling? Oh, no, he's not. Thank you, bro. Yeah. These guys are rolling? Yep, sweet. Thanks, Nick. Yeah. Rolling on set. Now that liquid really helps improve the flow. It just breaks that surface tension of that oil paint. It can be difficult to get through without medium, though that said, Blue Ridge is really nice and buttery. But you don't want to use too much of it. Just 1 part medium to 3 parts paint. That's enough. Any more, you could run into problems. Generally, you know, liquid's a pretty safe bet, but it could yellow over time. So you just want to watch that stuff. But it's going to give me just enough surface tension or a break in the surface tension that it's going to make it a little more workable. Right. Now, I don't want to lose any of these rocky shelves. I'm just painting in the major ones, looking at my color study pretty close. Make sure I've got like the right shoulders and angles showing in there. But that said, things can move. I'm going to play this game of 2 things. 1, cook time. My OGs know what I'm talking about. And 2, aesthetic chess. So cook time is where after this block-in's done, I'm going to put it up and let this thing cook. I'm going to think about these decisions that I've been making during the block-in. And as it's up in the studio and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, what could I move? What could I shift? Is that really got the right feeling? And I start to make those moves in my mind first. And then when I revisit it, I've got a few things that I'm like, aha, I'm going to attack that rock. I'm going to move that cliff. I'm going to change where that waterfall tumbles down the side of that sheer drop. So cook time and aesthetic chess. And aesthetic chess, you're just simply making moves. It's like playing a chess game. You're just moving the pieces around. So you can see we get slightly darker as we come in this way because there's a lack of mist and cloud and atmosphere. But we get slightly lighter as we go that way. Let's get into a bit of that mist. I'm going to tie these 2 halves. Break up the edges. You can do some blending during this phase as well, but just break up the edges of a couple of those strokes. New brush. I got 3 brushes in my hands. We'll get into some of this mist color. So I'm going to use some titanium white, a little bit of liquid original, a little bit of ultramarine blue, a little sneaky something else. But no, I'm kidding. I'm going to use some cobalt teal. Now that cobalt teal is a beautiful greeny blue, beautiful color. I balance it with a little bit of quinacridone magenta. Now the magenta and the teal both have a cool bias. And so when they mix together, they mix a clean, nice violet color. And it works really nice with the ultramarine blue. Now to me, the ultramarine is cool. It works so nice with these other colors. And so this is actually, I didn't even show you my palette. I'm so sorry. I didn't even show you my palette. This is actually something that I'm using a lot. I'll go ahead and do this again. Sorry. I apologize. I didn't even show you my palette. So again, for those of you watching, here we go. Titanium white, ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, quinacridone magenta. There we go. So I'm using this color. It's kind of a violety blue, a little bit of gray nature in there because I'm sneaking in from the previous mix here. Some of that umber is being dragged through. So I don't want anything high key, high chroma. Another way of saying that is something really colorful, right? Something really bright, intense, saturated. I want it to just have that edge knocked off. So I'm going to come over here. And as soon as I put it down next to that gray that we had established previously, whoa, it looks pretty intense. And over the imprimatura. What's an imprimatura? An imprimatura is that base color. It's the tone that I add to the primed linen before I start. The combination I use is burnt umber and burnt sienna. I rub it back thoroughly before starting to paint, and the imprimatur is totally dry. Now, it's not pure oil paint that I'm adding to the linen. It's oil paint with a touch of liquid and really, really diluted with solvent. I use Gamsol for this. I used to use pure gum turpentine, but it's no longer sold at the hardware store here in New Zealand, which is weird. It's such a beautiful product, but it's a little sticky as it dries, but Gamsol works great too. So I've been using that. And then you paint it on and basically you rub it off, as much of it as you possibly can. If I want to mix almost black, can I also mix phthalo blue with burnt umber? And yeah, absolutely. Marcus, that's a great question. Yeah, you can use phthalo. You can totally use phthalo. It just recognize it's going to give you a slightly different color, quality to that color. Absolutely. All right, let's carry on. Now, right here, this misty portion is actually pretty big. I need to have more paint. For some reason, I just keep starving my palette. More color. I've got a lot of white out there. Add just a touch more liquid. Now, one of the things that, it sounds weird, but it's so true. After a while, your brushes talk to you. Have I been sniffing too much liquid? No, I'm serious. They talk to you. So as I'm mixing here on the palette, the brush is telling me if it needs more liquid, if it needs more paint. How is it talking to me? I can feel the tension of that paint tugging at those bristles. Too much pull, too much work to get through that. And I'm working on a glass palette, by the way. This is an old shelf out of a refrigerator. Man, I love DIY stuff. It's great. But as I'm mixing there, that friction, that pull, that work I have to go to just mix the friggin' color, dude, that's telling me something. More liquid. Now, if I add that liquid to it and it starts slipping and slopping all over the place, and I'm like, far out, too much liquid. It's just too fluid. So you learn where that sweet spot is as you get that ratio bang on in the beginning. You start to learn, that's what it feels like. All right, cool. Well, now I can replicate that. How do you feel about having your palette on the other side of the painting versus directly in front? Any benefits? I've been working here for years, Ashley, with this, and that's a great question. In fact, but my favorite thing to do, if I'm honest, is this. This is my favorite thing to do. I love holding the palette and mixing right here and painting directly here. This is awesome. This feels right. Been doing it for years. But since teaching, it's actually really difficult to get a video shot looking straight down at that palette. It's quite hard. So I did this for you, Ashley. All right. So we got our camera here, shooting that in HD so we can see what's going on and it's not shaking all over the place. So you can see here, I mean, can you see the camera? I'll put my hand on it. So there's the camera there. It's lost against the background. You can see the camera pointing straight down, and that allows us to get a nice clean shot of exactly what I'm mixing. All right. Good questions today. Can I go over the top with painting with liquid after using Gamsol solvent-free gel in the block end? Can I go over the top of a painting with liquid? I wouldn't go, Noah, good to see you, bro. I would not go mixing mediums. You should be okay with that, but I wouldn't, I wouldn't risk it, no. Particularly if it's one of those big, beautiful paintings like your waterfall that we talked about yesterday. So I would, yeah, man, I would avoid going, and mixing your mediums. A lot of the problems that we run into is when we mix materials, mix mediums and such. It can be a little bit problematic there. Why? Because different materials have different properties. They dry with a different surface quality. They dry at different rates. So imagine if you put on top of a slow drying surface, a slow drying medium, a fast drying medium, and even though that slow drying medium appeared to the touch to be dry, yet underneath, under that dry skin, it's doing its thing, it's shifting around, it's moving all over the place. You just can't see it. And then you add over the top of that something fast drying. You can imagine what's going to happen. So picture this, you've got a hard layer of, let's say you got like a silty mud that's over the top of something that's the equivalent of quicksand. But the quicksand is dry on top, right? It's got a layer of dry on top, but it's moving, it's shifting. You just can't tell, you can't see it. And then you got that hard clay-like mud that's sitting over the top. What's going to happen? That mud on top is going to start to crack. It's going to start to move. Does that analogy make sense? Am I making sense, or is it just too early in the morning here in New Zealand? Do I need another cup of coffee? I don't know. It could be the latter. All right. So we got just a little bit of mist. If you're noticing that it's slightly darker over here, you're quite correct. And this is one of the things I love about the block end stage. You know, we can, if we want to, we can actually do quite a lot of manipulation here, a little bit of blending, and create some really cool atmospheric effects right here in the block end. So I'm going to pull some of that mist over here, and I'm really going to blur out this edge to our cloud here, and then just get that nice transition. It's kind of painterly still. You can still see the strokes in it, but it's kind of got that airbrushed feel. I like that. It's neat. So it's not that everything has to have strokes. You can blend. Absolutely, you can blend. It's a free country. You can do whatever you want. I don't know. I love the structure, the angles that you can just get by just hacking into the thing. Now, so I've gone from that fencing stance and my my shoulder length brushwork from here. Yeah. Gone from there to moving up on it, as you've noticed. Still enjoying standing and working, but now it's just a little bit more refinement. Gone from that overhand grip to an underhand grip. But notice here, if I want some broader strokes, something with a little more expression, notice where I'm holding the brush. This is always my deal here when I'm blocking in a painting. It's towards the back third of the brush. So my fingers are barely crossing the halfway point on that brush. And so I'm holding back here at the back of the handle. This also allows me to just get a bit more distance from the painting and see the bigger picture. And that's what the blocking's all about. It's seeing the bigger picture. But what I want also is a little bit of a sense of the road ahead and a sense that I'm on the right track. It helps having a design. I wouldn't attempt to do this just flying by the seat of my pants. I got a solid design. You can see it right there. And I felt like, oh man, that feels good. That's a winner. Couple of tweaks, sure. But that to me, I'm stoked. I feel like that's going to be a good one. but I want to know that road ahead. And one of the things I like, I don't know about you, hit me up. Click the like button if you haven't already. If you're liking this too, if you're getting just a couple of tips out of it. But one of the things I like is I like that feeling of that repeating line of that rocky shelf. Because this rock face, the rock has a grain to it, almost like wood in a way, and it breaks in a particular way. And depending on how that sedimentary layer is turned up, there's going to be a common line coming through. So I'm going to break it up and make it random, but I kind of like where that imprimatur is showing through. I can already feel the structure of the rock. If you can feel that too, hey, click that like button. Why not? If you're enjoying it so far, click the like button. Now, also, just to let you know, this painting, all said and done, when I put those final strokes of detail, I would have been sitting in the chair for maybe 250 hours. Something of this scale, something of this degree of complexity. That's a few weeks. That's a few weeks. Currently, I'm chipping away at several commissions. And so what I'm doing for my live streams is I'm blocking in lots of stuff. And I'm putting them all up for cook time here in the studio. I'm thinking about it. Now, we run a fine art gallery, by the way. If you're a art collector or an art lover, if you've tuned into this live stream here, well, welcome. If you're in the Wanaka area, you can come see us. We're now in North Lake in Wanaka. And it's a beautiful gallery. And it's run by yours truly. But I must say, it is nice having my own gallery space. So these will be going up in the gallery. And I've got a few people coming through, and it's quite interesting because people are looking at the work and they're kind of like looking at the paintings going, is that finished? And I'm like, no, that's just the block end. Like, oh, but you framed it. I'm like, yeah, I put the block ends up sometimes. You know, I do things a little differently. But the truth is, with a lot of these bigger works, I just don't know where to put them. I don't know where I'm going to put them. Watching you work on a big landscape while also working on my big landscape. Well done, Elle. That's awesome. Or Ellie. What's your biggest tips for keeping your setup ergonomically friendly so I can stop hurting my back in shrimp pose? Oh, I hear you. I totally hear you. Look, I tell you what, man. I carry it right here in my shoulder, and my wife she's got to get in there with the elbow. So look, I think just moving around and just lots of stretching and just lots of shoulder rotations and just standing up straight. And I got to think about my posture all the time. I don't have the best posture, but I also generally been a little bit unwell the last few months, but I'm coming out of it now. I'm nearly 100%. But I train, so that also helps me. And it's like a forced moment to move your body, because when I'm not doing that, like I am doing the same thing. So just being conscious of it. But one thing that might help is lift your painting up a little bit higher. So my natural inclination here that was to lower the painting. So when I first put it up on my wall easel, and I've got a French cleat system, you can see some of the bars over here that run horizontal. Overall, the whole wall is pretty big. It's like 8 to 10 meters. It's pretty big. But I had it low down, and the lower it is, you can imagine you're going to be hunching over. So it's just like, oh, dude, lift it up. So if it's higher, it's going to force your chest and back to be a bit straighter. I hope that helps. All right. What is it about landscapes and animals that make you want to paint them over anything else? Experience with painting architecture. Ethan, architecture scares me. That's why. So I love buildings. Like there's some paintings of Venice I really want to do. And I do love buildings. I love paintings of buildings. It's cool. There's a few Dutch artists. I can't even pronounce their names, but one of them's name is Koek, Koek or something. It's hard to pronounce, but I love this guy's paintings, and I think he's 16th, 17th century. Amazing paintings of buildings. but it's just not something I've really been around. I think when you find that thing that really makes your heart sing, you gotta lean into it. And so for me, it's the big, grand landscapes, and particularly New Zealand. But I love United States landscapes. I've been there. I'm from Texas. That's where I'm originally from. And I also lived in Australia for well over 25 years. And so I got some big Aussie stuff that I've been doing and more Aussie stuff on the way. But all my people down under in the comment section right now. Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! All right, we'll just see what happens in the comments now. Oh, go Eagles. Anyway, so I think when you find your jam, you just you stick with it. But that said, I love portraits and I love still life. There we go, Siobhan. There you go, Daniel. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Where's Rayleigh at? I wish us Aussies had bigger mountains, but our content is too old and weathered. Yeah, but there's, you know what you got over there, Rayleigh? You know what you got? You got those deep canyons and gorges. You know, you've got some pretty amazing stuff. And I tell you what, you want a profound landscape with impact despite the lack of extreme topography? Be sitting in the Pilbara at dawn. I love that. The way the light comes up and hits the spinifex and snappy gums, it'll change your life. It's an amazing scene. So, but I hear you. I mean, New Zealand's pretty cool. It's like pretty much just handed to you on a silver platter. But there's a beauty there that gets under the skin in Australia, and I really love it. I miss a lot about it. I really miss early mornings up at Carragini National Park, or you know, the Broome Coast. Early mornings. There's something about that light. Does burnt umber tend to remain a bit tacky to the touch even after it's dried? No, Albert, not for me. It's one of the first ones to form a skin. So I think check it out. You might have something that you're mixing with it that is causing it to be sticky. But again, liquid original works great. If you want a low toxic or a no toxic solution, then Gamblin solvent-free gel, like Noah was talking about before, that's great. Also, Rublev Oleo Gel. That's one that I use if I'm going big, I want working time. That generally tends to form, you know, a skin and start to dry after a couple of days for me. So if I'm working on a big piece like this, I'm like, I really want to blend for the next few days. I got to work on a big piece, maybe several meters across. Maybe I'd go with an oleo gel. But here's the drill. If I started with oleo gel, I'm finishing with oleo gel. I'll see that medium all the way through, and I won't mix those mediums. Because if I added over the top of oleo gel, the liquid, cracking. Yeah. Now, I'm not saying it will happen. I'm just saying it could happen, and it makes sense to err on the side of caution. Speaking of error, a little bit of titanium white in with my mix, and as I approach and come down, I'm going to reserve a little space here in the atmosphere. I'm going to reserve a little bit of that zone for a bit of a highlight. You could see there in that color study. I'm just working around the edges of my shape, but I'll continue to manipulate it, continue to blend. They say he has terrible segues. I don't agree. I think they're the best. How good was that one? Seamless. Absolutely seamless. Ultramarine blue. Burnt umber. It's the same combination over and over again with a couple of sneaky extras for those paying attention. But it's really only ultramarine blue and burnt umber. Am I right? And they're like, stop doing that. A little bit of what? Why? What am I hitting? I'm hitting my yellow, my red, and my green. But you're like, wait, that's not yellow, that's not red, that's not green. Well, I'm using the yellow right there. I like this. I'm actually, you're making mud. I know it. Look, a little bit of yellow there from the raw sienna, a little bit of red there, that nature of the quinacridone magenta. It gives me a bit of an earthy orange. And I pull that sucker back into control by adding that complementary opposite. And I'm going for a nice muted gray there. I like that. That's got some interest in there. That's talking. If you use liquid in the blocking in stage, says Dolan, do you keep adding more liquid in the modeling and detail phases? Yeah, absolutely. But there's an interesting thing with liquid is you don't necessarily have to follow that fat on lean. Although what you're doing is like that kinda ish, but slightly different. It's like this. I maintain that ratio throughout, layer upon layer. So what fat on lean means is that you're fattening up your mixtures by adding more fat to that paint. So you're adding more and more as you build up your layers in the painting. So I tend to just keep that ratio, and what I'm looking for is adhesion. And the thing with liquid is it's permanently flexible, and as long as each layer's got a little bit in there, each layer is going to stick to the next. It makes it super convenient and super forgiving. And this is why I tell my students on the academy, look, just get some liquid. Okay, you need a little ventilation. Okay, go for it. It's not too bad. It's not too on the nose compared to some stuff. It's nothing like working with straight terps, you know? And for the record, I don't add terps into my paint as I'm working. A lot of artists do that. A lot of artists swear by that, but I don't thin out the paint with solvent as I'm working. Good questions today. Has anyone ever experienced having their alizarin permanent ever being too dry to paint with? Oh, I've not come across that. Permanent crimson made by Blue Ridge. Never experienced that. So what brand are you using there, bro? Right. Okay, so I'm going to go a little bit of a wider shot here. And in fact, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go to this angle here. We're about an hour down in the live stream. And for an hour's work and all the yapping we've been doing here, I feel pretty good about it so far. I'm going to be with you another couple of hours, but I'm actually not unhappy with that so far. It doesn't have the sense of light quite yet, but I'm feeling the structure and I've got that base down first so that I'm able to make a judgment call. I know, by the way, I know that my shadows in the foreground, I could definitely go darker than that because I was adding so much white to that. This looks pretty dark. It's nearly feels black as I look at it. But I know that as soon as I add the real depth of shadow down here, we're going to get that pulling forward effect, that stepping forward effect. Now, darker tones, you'll see this in this blocking, darker tones are going to come further forward. And as we raise that value, lift the tone, my OGs, am I right? As we lift that tone, we're going to start to push this further back. And so what I want to do here is just create that separation. This is why I keep coming back to oil painting. This is the coolest thing about it. For me, it's about creating dimension. It's about creating that illusion of a three-dimensional space, even though we only have 2 dimensions to play with. It's like you're just punching a hole into another reality in this thing. That keeps me, and so when I saw the old masters doing this, when I went to museums and galleries and was studying their work up close, I was like, are you kidding me? Whoa, you can do that? Like a person made this? It looks friggin' real, dude. Like Ivan Ivanovich Shishkin standing there in front of that painting. Noah and I were talking about this just yesterday. Standing there in front of that painting going, wow. Wow. So this is one thing that I'm chasing. I'm not saying I do it on every single one, but that's the thing that keeps me coming back to it. It's like those surfers chasing that perfect wave. I'm chasing that depth. I'm looking for a scene that's got that separation from foreground to midground to background. Now, how, pray tell, are we going to get that depth in the background? How are we going to push that mountain? We got a little sliver of mountain showing above this rocky slope. How are we going to push that back? Let's talk about it right now. Let's mix it up. All right. So over here, what we're going to do is I'm going to come back to my palette. I've got this, what I was using for the mist. I got that, what I was using for that mid-tone of some of those grays. I'm going to go right between. It's still going to be dark-ish, but not quite as dark as my layer in front, but definitely darker than that mist. I want it to read. But enough of blue and violet to push it back a little bit. Now that violet, I love this. I was talking to my students about this. And all the folks that joined me on that plein air tour this year. Rayleigh was there. That was cool. Shout out to all my plein air peeps. But a bit of ultramarine blue and a bit of quinacridone magenta. But here's the thing. People are treating magenta like violet. And this is the thing that was tripping everybody up on that tour. And now, for my folks that are coming on the 2026 round of dates, for all my folks joining us, this is what I want to show you. Look at this. If I'm treating that like violet instead of red, which it is, how did that happen? I got paint all over my brush handle. There we go. And now it's going to get on my, oh, dude. There we go. If I treat this like it was violet and I start adding this color, this is what's going to happen. It's going to shift way too much towards the red side, and I'm going to kill that depth. Here's the deal with the light spectrum and atmospheric perspective. Red, orange, and yellow are these longer wavelengths of light that are the first to disappear and scatter out of the atmosphere. Now, if that sounds too technical, don't worry about it. All you got to know is that red ain't distant. It's not a far color. So in the distance and depth, you won't see a bunch of red. This is why forested mountains with lots of green trees on there, that yellow drops right away, and those mountains start to shift blue, and then eventually they start to shift towards violet. But the violet ain't red. So this quinacridone magenta, this is a bit of a mysterious color here. Yeah, it's got a little bit of a purpley quality, but look how hot that is. Look how red that is. And the trouble is that there just wasn't enough ultramarine blue in that mix. So I need to add actually an awful lot of that ultramarine blue to counteract that misty, violety, reddish magenta. A lot of blue. That needs to pull it back into balance. But what I also like is that green nature of the cobalt teal. Now, quinacridone magenta and cobalt teal, despite its redness, this is a cool red. And this cobalt teal, this is a cool bluey green. Because they have that bias, they're going to mix together real clean, really clean. So I'm going to grab a bit more of that cobalt teal and bam, it's come back into check. Now this color here will recede. Well, it better. I don't know. Jury's still out on that one. Should we see? Should we try? Let's have a look. So I'm thinking about this mountain back here. Oh, I don't know if it works or not, but I love it. Oh my goodness. I love this color so much. That violet, that's not only working, that's pinging. Coming at you, bro. So work on my edges here, get a little bit of structure, don't get it too far off. I think what we're going to do, what we really need to do is we need to bring that shoulder up. I see a shape that I missed. I'll bring that shoulder, that mountain up. We've got a cut there, a gouge in our mountain. I've got a layer of rock in highlight and a snowy, almost glacier shelf right there above that. So we'll leave some room for that, but we'll bring that up nice and high. I love the way it kind of goes bang, cuts back down, drops into the scene, back up through the waterfall. But we'll talk about the composition here in a bit. But I love this color so much that I'm gonna mix a bit more of it over here on my palette. So you've seen how I mix that. I love this color so much. I'm actually gonna bring it into my rocks over here. I'm just gonna add this violet here. Is that okay with you? While we're doing it, let's just add a little bit of that violet. That's neat. Push that back. Push that on back. Add just a little bit more dimension, depth and atmosphere there. Dimension. I've been talking for a little while here. Hey, it's a pleasure to have your company. I hope you're enjoying the live stream so far. If you are enjoying the live stream, click the like button. Please. Help other people see this stuff and share the love. It helps it get out to more and more people, and I really appreciate that. If you're watching the replay, click the like button. If you're like, hey, I didn't know about this. This is kind of cool. This guy's kind of weird, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Well, then make sure you're subscribed. And trust me, it gets weirder. All right, let's go ahead and take that rock off the top corner. And we'll start to wrap around and bring the scene forward. Now, the blocking, you might be thinking, look, the only thing faster than this is, watching the paint dry, dude. Come on, get on with it. But you know what? These paintings, they take a while. But the thing is I love the immediacy of the blocking. For me, this is quick, and painting takes time. We also like to do that traditional realism. Traditional realism, that's what I'm all about. Whether it's a portrait, a still life, wildlife, or a landscape, I love those traditional timeless techniques of the old masters. And I've dedicated my life to learning how they did what they did, investigating it to the best of my ability, and then breaking that down in a way that makes sense for us living today in 2025. Using some materials that maybe we're not going to be grinding with a stone. We're not going to be grinding our own lapis lazuli, and mixing in our linseed oil and doing all that stuff and weaving our own linen. Maybe we're not. But with the modern convenience of paint in a tube and medium in a bottle and some canvas on a roll that's going to be shipped directly to your door from Amazon, hey, a lot of the principles of traditional painting, this is what we talk about on our academy and on what I talk about all the time here on this YouTube channel. So if that's your jam and you always wanted to do stuff like this, then subscribe. But I do appreciate your company. Thanks for hanging out. Let's go ahead and have a look more at this palette. One little thing I'm going to get in here is a sense of light right here on our waterfall and over here on our cloud. I know, Angus, great question. I have not tried egg tempera, but I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of it. There's a fantastic artist here in New Zealand. His name's Simon Richardson, and his work just blows me away. And I also spoke to John Darley, who's a great artist over there in Utah. Spoke to him on the podcast, and egg tempera is his jam. And I think it's pretty cool. Although I have not used it, and I am scared of it. It just looks very complicated. I'm an oils man. I'm an oil painter, and I love my oil, but I am not against trying new things. But I tell you what gets me, what I think about, is I want a medium that will do what I want it to do. What do I mean? Like I got a particular artistic vision, and I want to see that vision come to life. And so the medium here, the paint that I'm using, is just a vehicle to let the scene come through. Because at the end of the day, when the viewer is looking at this, I want this to feel so real that they're not even thinking about how it was done. They're not even thinking about the fact it's a painting. Now they're standing in front of something, having an experience. That was done to me. It's Ivan Ivanovich Shishkin's fault, is I stood in front of his painting and I had an experience. And the minute I saw that, it changed my life to such a level that I looked at it, I was like, I want to do that for the rest of my life. And then I spent several years failing at it miserably. Trying. It's like, how did he do it? Now, I'm not saying I'm doing it now. I'm not making any claims. But the chase is what I love. I love that chase. Yep, we're rolling tomorrow. How do I make a thin glaze over a fat brush stroke if I'm using liquid medium. I don't want to make that sandwich effect, make it crack. Great question. So one of the things that you can use, and I highly recommend you use some transparent color. Transparent color. Often what happens is we will use copious amounts of medium thinking that suspending just a little bit of paint in lots and lots of liquid, that's going to give us the effect of atmosphere. It will, for a start, in the beginning, but what's going to happen is we're going to have that cracking effect over time. You can't have these soupy mixtures and float that over the top of a painting and expect it not to have consequences at some point. Now you can get away with that for a little while. Yeah? You can run on for a long time. But sooner or later, yeah, you know what I'm saying. Sooner or later, it's going to get you. So how do we do it? I would stick to the ratio. Stick to the ratio. And when you stick to the ratio, what's going to happen is that you'll find by using transparent colors, you can get that beautiful atmospheric effect. Now, what's a transparent white that you can use? Well, you can use Kremnitz white, which is a lead white, basic lead carbonate. I would highly recommend you do not ever use zinc. Don't use it. Not at all. All right. Now, that said, if you're using it, don't freak out about what I'm about to say, but it can cause paintings to crack and delaminate over time. A lot of manufacturers have dropped zinc from their lines. So I would use something like lead if you can get it. Now, I'll be straight up with you. Here in New Zealand, they banned it. You cannot buy lead anymore. But as far as I'm aware, you can get it shipped to you. You're just not able to sell it or buy it. So I'm adding a little bit of titanium white, very thin. When I say thin, the physical volume is pretty thin. They're not thick strokes here. And I'm just going to be working the edge of that misty cloud. A little bit of titanium goes a long way, but working the edge of that cloud, dragging it down in, breaking up that edge. No harsh lines, no harsh texture here. I'm going to go back and rework over the top of this at some future point. That is a problem for future, Andrew. But so far, just a little bit of a highlight across the front of that. I'm feeling a little bit of dimension there. All right, somebody asked already, why didn't you start with the sky? Ah, Danielle, because I'm a maverick. You know, normally I would have. If it was just me here working in the studio and I didn't have a few hundred of my friends joining me, I probably would have started with that sky. But what I wanted to do right off the bat is just establish a context for how that sky is going to read and a context for how that foreground is going to read. So I shot straight down the middle. So also to demonstrate to a lot of my OGs, like you, Danielle, one of my OGs, that, you know, you can set in place a rule, but once you learn the ropes of kind of like working from back to front, except for plein air, but working from back to front, then you can start to bend those things. Yeah. Is that me saying, hey, I don't live by the same rules that I force on other people? Maybe. You're like, well, you're mean to us. You tell us we have to do that. Yeah, but, you know, do as I say, not as I do, right? No, there's more than one approach to this, and that's the thing I love. So I try to avoid stuff that sounds like a rule. So it's generally, this is how I do it. And when you do this particular way, you have a particular effect. Generally. I'm going to break up the edge of that waterfall because that waterfall, I really want to mist it up. Work it in. Now, I keep forgetting to show you my palette, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So over here, we're going to get little more violet. I'll work down around the edge of that rock there. Bring that across. We'll have some ultramarine blue, some titanium white, and a bit more burnt umber, and just a wee sneaky one. Oh, too much sneaky. See, I got cocky there, and my sneaky brush just landed right in it. Serves you right for screwing around. Ultramarine blue, a little more quinacridone magenta, a little more cobalt teal now. There we go. Bring it on back. Excellent. So, yeah, that's got it. That's a little more of that violet nature coming through, but slightly more purpley, which I like. It's going to work for the shadow of this cloud. As I said, we'll mist it up. All right. Notice you used a limited palette for the block in and find it easier to remix paint colors. Will you use the same colors for the next steps? Phillips, that's a great question. I will probably be extending the range considerably. I'm going to add 2 more yellows. I'm going to add 2 more reds. I'm going to add another green, and I'm going to add 2 more blues. I'm going to extend the earth range with another 2. And so it's really going to get quite a bit more complicated. But yeah, you know what? In the beginning stages, this can work really well. Now, by the way, do you have to? Do you have to use all those colors? No, not at all. Not at all. I could maintain this limited palette all the way through, and I could end up with a really great result. But there's a richness to using that range that I'm going to talk to my Academy members about. We'll even get out a few of those colors in tomorrow's live stream. Now, by the way, tomorrow's live stream, we got an Academy VIP exclusive live stream where I'm going to be carrying on with this painting, adding more dimension, adding a bit more depth, creating just a few more textures and surfaces and angles. One could even say adding a few more details, although we're pretty far from the detail phase. But we're gonna really start to resolve this thing. Certainly have a clearer idea about where it's all going. So I'm really super excited for that. My OGs, you can tune in the same time tomorrow. We'll be going live for another 3 hours. That's for my Academy folks over there. If you're not a member of our Tish Academy, then what are you doing? What are you even doing? You're here watching this live stream because I imagine you love painting, but you should totally check it out. In fact, I'm going to go and get myself a quick cup of coffee, and you just sit there and relax for a second, but watch this. I'll see you in a second. Are you ready to improve your art? Do you want to take things to the next level? Well, at Tish Academy, we'll guide you through the whole process. Now, traditional art school can be really expensive, and you're going to go through all of that time, and at the end of it, are you even going to learn how to paint? You're taking a huge risk, and not to mention, you got to travel there to take those classes. But here at Tish Academy, you can learn at your own pace, on your own time, and learn those things that actually interest you. With your Tish Academy membership, you're going to unlock over 350 hours of exclusive video content. You'll have access to the critique videos, but most importantly, those weekly live streams if you're a member of our Academy VIP tier. Now, maybe you've hit a creative block and maybe you've experienced that low energy when you approach the canvas because you're just not sure what to do. I get it. I've been there too. But I guarantee that Tish Academy will see your art soaring to new heights. Now, that's a bold claim, I know. Don't just take my word for it. Here's Daniel, who's experienced massive results from taking our courses on Tish Academy.
If people just get on my Instagram and scroll down to the bottom and see what my first works were to now, you've just changed my life. I think you've got so many tools on the Academy that anyone that goes on there is going to be successful in their own personal way. And when I start painting and do something like this that I never thought I could do 3 years ago, there's no way. I don't know, it's got more of a meaning to life now, and now I have goals.
Now, I'm so inspired by Daniel. He's kicking massive goals. Now, here's Penny, who's experienced similar things from Tish Academy.
I have painted for a long time, actually, but I felt kind of stuck. You know, I kept doing the same things, and I didn't feel like I was progressing. And so when I found Andrew's videos and then later joined the Academy, I learned some concrete things, like it was my composition that I'm off. And I learned some steps where I could go, oh, okay, that makes a difference. And in an encouraging community, I would put a piece up, a photo of what I did, and got some really good feedback, encouraging feedback.
Now here's Swathi, who's learned from our tutorials and has applied that to her own art and is now creating bigger, more ambitious work.
Hi, I'm Swathi from India. I always wanted to be a painter but couldn't pursue it professionally, and it was more like a hobby. This is how I used to paint before. Then I took Andy's tutorial to learn more about realism and did few of his copies too, and this is one of them. It helped me a lot in understanding the concepts like color mixing and composition. This is where I am now. Thanks a lot, Andrew. You have been a great influence on me. Looking forward for your next tutorial.
Now, I just love Terry from Montana. Here's what he's experienced from Tish Academy.
Howdy, I'm Terry Hirsch from Dillon, Montana, and I became a student of the Tish Academy with Andrew Tischler because I had a stroke 3 years ago, and part of the therapy was painting, so I took it up. To give you an idea how I've advanced, this was my first painting, and this is now where I'm at. This is our daughter, and through 4 different paints. That was it, put into that. That's what you can get out of the Tish Academy.
Now, these are just a few stories from some of our members on Tish Academy. Trust me, there's loads more. So if you've been putting off this vital step in improving your art, then don't wait any longer. Jump in now, and I'm gonna make it super easy for you. We offer a 30-day money-back guarantee. No questions asked. If you jump in and you find that this isn't for you, then no problem at all. I'll refund all your money. Now, registering for Tish Academy couldn't be easier. It only takes a few seconds. You're only one click away. There's no hidden costs and no lock-in contracts. Once you're in, you're in. And remember, it comes with that 30-day money-back guarantee. So what are you waiting for? Click that link and join us at Tish Academy. I'll see you in the studio. All right. Hey, thanks so much for that. Got myself a nice hot cup of coffee. It's early morning here in New Zealand, so oh, it's lava. I'll tell you what, coffee's lava. Let's get back to it. Let's catch you up on what's going on here. I'm feeling a little bit more of a sense of place and scene, but you know what? There's something that's caught my eye, and I'm kind of loving it. I'm kind of loving it. So I want to give you a bit more of a closer view here. Let me see, what can we do here? Let's go over here and let's zoom in. And I think that's going to be all right. That's sharp. Nick, I'm going to ask for a new memory card for that one. It's actually got no space on it. Sorry, can I sharp that over? That's fine. There you go. Sorry. I've got the jitters, bro. I've had so much coffee. But it's just not doing enough. So bear with us. It's going to be a little shaky as we're just changing out the memory card on the camera. But we'll get there, and I'll do a new take over here too. All right, what I was saying specifically was the way, and I picked it up in my little color study, and I really liked it, but the way that rock face feels, it's got those angles to it. And the thing I really love about it is that how that waterfall interacts with that surface and it shifts up these different tones of gray, but it goes from silver to violet. It's the coolest thing ever. I mean, you might think there are cooler things out there, but I don't think so. This is the coolest thing. So I'm gonna add just a bit of that. I'm gonna introduce but one more color here. I'll use my mid-tone brush, and I want to go for a warmer, lighter gray. I went straight into that mix of ultramarine blue, quinacridone, cobalt, teal, and white, that misty color, and I've added to that a raw sienna and a cheeky extra. Stop doing that. Why do you keep doing that? Well, a little burnt umber then, okay? I'll tell you what I'm doing. A little burnt umber. Yeah, my OGs are like, you add these sneaky little extra things. You're doing it subconsciously, and you're not even telling us what you're doing. So you got to watch me in slow-mo. We're now filming at 8K at 140 frames per second, so you can slow me down and figure out what I'm doing. And even then, you won't catch it. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Was I on close cam that whole time and I didn't even switch the palette? Thank you, Nick. See, this is why you got to have somebody in your studio helping you with the tech. Thank you, Nick. Shout out. Hey, show Nick some more love in the live chat already. Come on. All right, so a little bit of that raw sienna. Now that said, like I might do things subconsciously. I've been painting as a professional artist for the last 20 years. And I will do some things that sometimes I don't even know that I'm doing, but it's not because I have secrets that I don't want to share with you. I got no secrets. I want to show you and tell you exactly what I'm doing. So when I hear that, it's like you add these sneaky little extras. It's like, okay, slow down. Let's have a chat. All right, right over here. That color I feel is going to work really nice. That warmer gray. It doesn't need to be light because I want to preserve my tone for those silvery highlights that are going to show up on the actual waterfall as it's cascading down this cliff. I'm doing it again. Nick's on the camera switcher because I'm not even thinking about the screen or the buttons. I appreciate it. All right. There he is. I'm going to go to the main screen, the reference screen. Thank you, Nick. Awesome. Just shifted up some of my edges here. There we go. Yeah, there you go. The sneaky little mix, Daniel. Thank you. Shout out to Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate the testimonial too, brother. Thank you so much. Yeah, Daniel's doing some great things over there. As is Noah, as is Penny, as is Swathi and Tara over there in Montana. And shout out to all my OGs over there on Tish Academy. Much love, you guys. Thank you so much. Right. I could keep going that way, but I don't want to get bogged down today and just painting dark. Okay, I'll do it. I'll do it. All right, let's go. Let's go. We're here. We'll do it live. All right. Ultramarine blue. I'm out. You know, you will notice that I'm going through a heck ton of ultramarine, umber, and white. Those are the ones that I'm going to have to continually replenish. Continually. Ultramarine blue, burnt umber, and white. That's really the base of a lot of my mixes. Now, people love to hate on burnt umber because it has that sinking in quality, and you know they just don't like it. And I just say, you know what? I deal with the sinking in. It's all good. There are techniques that you can apply where it's not a problem, but I use it for its color, its versatility, and where it holds that space, that color space on the palette. And whoa, that is way too dark. Way too dark. So I need to lift my tone with a bit of white, just a touch, but a bit of white in there, a bit more blue. That blue will help it push back a touch of quinacridone, but as we know, not too much. I'm going to move this sucker back a little bit because I can't even get in there. All right, here we go. Good fun. I think the sweet spot for me for a live stream is about 3 hours. You've been hanging around this long. I really appreciate it. But about 3 hours. You can get a bit done in 3 hours. You know, I struggle with, I've been a guest on some of these shows and you're given like 45 minutes. Dude, do you know how long this stuff takes? I can't do nothing in 45 minutes. But still, if you found out about me through Art School Live with Eric Rhodes, then welcome to my channel. I was on his channel recently, maybe a couple of months ago now, time's flying. But I was doing a demonstration on how to paint water. I was doing it in glazes, and it's live, so I was doing it live from my studio at 4 in the frickin' morning, dude. That's an early morning. So I started using the Tisch dagger to block in. I got pretty fast. Awesome. Thank you, Lori. Yeah, it's pretty quick, huh? So I want to maintain that waterfall there. I'm just going to sharpen up my line a little bit, work out towards the left of that line, and I'm going to draw it in again, and I'm going to work out from the right of my line. Quit being so precious about it, Andrew. Let's get a bit more color out. A lot of burnt umber that time, a lot of ultramarine blue. Painter's got to paint, so you got to use some paint and get that out on your paintbrush so you can apply the paint. Otherwise, you're painting with not enough paint. Just do it. Stop starving the palette. Okay, I'm listening. Now that is a little bit on the dark side, but I can go back later and manipulate it and add to it. I don't think it'll be too dark that it will kill my depth, because I can see clearly on the palette where I'm at in terms of gray. So I'm asked often, why have gray behind your palette if you've got a warm imprimatura? Wouldn't it make sense to have an imprimatura color behind your palette, sir, to mix the whole time? Well, you kind of have that when you're using wood. I mean, there's wood right there. So you kind of got a warm feeling when you're using that wood, similar to an imprimatur. But the gray is simply here so I can gauge tone and color. This is more or less a neutral gray, slightly lighter, the background of my palette. As soon as I put something darker than a neutral gray down, I know about it. As soon as I put something lighter than a neutral gray, I know about it. This has actually sped me up and given me a greater understanding of value by using this neutral gray behind my palette, because I'm able to make better color decisions here at the easel as a result. Now, color and value is relative. So dark compared to what? Light compared to what? So here I'm mixing colors and I'm able to see that it's light or it's dark compared to what? Neutral gray. I'm also able to gauge that color compared to what? Neutral gray. Now, of course, it shows up slightly different when you put it on the imprimatura, and depending on where you are in the process, because context is everything. So the reason for the imprimatur is to kill that stark white quality of our linen. I don't like painting on white, and this canvas comes bright white, triple primed, Italian linen made by Bell RD. The code, if you want to get it, is 91 UP. 91 UP, 91 universal primed or acrylic primed. That's the one I'm using here. I use it for a lot of my big work. For smaller work, I'll use a 40 OP for oil prime. And it's a very fine weave, that one. Very fine weave. Rayleigh's worked on that one on the plein air tour. Hey, Nikki, how are you? Nikki, congratulations. #1 spot for blowing up the chat. Okay, we got a comment there from Nika. I might have missed that. We'll see if we can find it. When using lead white from Dolan, and I hope I'm pronouncing that right, or Doolin, beg your pardon if I'm mispronouncing your name. How do you safely dispose of paper towels or paint waste so it doesn't pollute the environment? So it doesn't pollute the environment. That's really interesting. So I tend to contain my waste, but to be completely honest with you, I don't actually create a lot of waste with my process. There are paint scrapings. The way I dispose of it is in a metal bin with paper towels, you know, obviously the paint scraped into the paper towel and it goes into a liner. I don't really think I can get around the fact that that is going into landfill, and that bothers some people. But it's difficult to live this day and age without producing some sort of waste, but I would say that it is minimal. But I don't, and I never do this. I never pour terps down the sink or any solvents down the sink. That ends up straight in your waterways and it can poison fish. I've seen people clean their brushes out in the field and then tip the terps out on the ground. I never do that. It drives me friggin' nuts, especially if you're down you're in a beautiful natural setting and it's just like, oh, you know, I'll just poison the environment a wee bit right here. No problem. You know, I just couldn't see myself washing my brushes here at the shore, at the rocks, which I would wash my brushes, not in the stream, of course, but wash my brushes while I'm sitting there and put all that stuff back into that sealed jar and backpack it out of there. So yeah, you really got to be waste free. Now that we got just on that for a second here, we got a species of alpine parrot here in New Zealand. It's so weird and so cool. It's the most beautiful bird, in my opinion. It's a gorgeous bird. You know, for me, they're second to eagles. I just find eagles cool. My favorite's a wedge-tailed eagle. Go Eagles. Go Eagles. Shout out to Caroline and Celestine over there. You guys better not be Dockers fans. But whatever. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Kias. Now Kias, it's like a green macaw without the long tail, and it's macaw sized. They're heavy parrots. And when they spread their wing, they've got this beautiful red feather that comes through. In fact, you will see Kias right here at this location. It's amazing. It's amazing. And this is where they're parked before they go down through that Homer tunnel on their way to Milford Sound, will have all the rubber trim on their cars removed, surgically removed by these Kia. Amazing bird. But the trouble is that they're very inquisitive and they'll try anything and they'll want to taste anything. Batteries, stickers, plastic bags, just trash. And a lot of tourists, you know, they're dropping their rubbish and discarding things like batteries and stuff. And a battery, like a Kia, will peel open a battery and start tasting it and checking it out. So, you know, something brightly colored, it would be right on here. So if I scraped off my cadmium into the environment, then yeah, you definitely have it. So I all that to say that I'm concerned about it, and I kind of try to watch out for that stuff, right? But that said, here in the studio, I produce a little bit of waste, but it's not, to me, it's not a huge amount. Maybe I should be a little more conscious of it though. But Dolan, you make a good point there, sir. All right. Is set up not to contaminate the water table. Landfill set up not to contaminate the water table, says Chad. Okay, good to know. Excellent. And the only mountain parrot in the world, the Kia, is the largest parrot. So largest in terms of the heaviest parrot, I'd believe it. I thought it was the macaw, but it's heavier than a macaw, right? It's heavier. It's like, it's definitely the body. It's that size. It just doesn't have a long tail. Yeah. But I mean, the thing about Kia is that they're so cool looking that tourists are just like, yeah, eat my car. It's only a rental. Eat it, you know? because they're getting all their photographs of these cool looking parrots. And they're open a new tab right now and search KEA parrot. KEA space parrot. You see what I'm talking about? Beautiful birds, gorgeous birds. All right, let's get this shoulder here on this cliff face. Let's go over to our close cam. And this is what I was really excited about. It's just another color right there. Another little note, just slightly lighter compared to our shadow, slightly lighter. But with some of my edges here and some of these blocks and shelves, I want to feel that cracking. By the way, in my hand, I've got 3 brushes. I've been using 3 brushes this whole block, and with the exception of my synthetic filbert that I used to sketch up. This was done in like 5 minutes or however long that sketch up took me. And so now we're just sharpening up edges, sharpening up edges. Just thinking about some of those forms. No detail yet, but I'm just want to feel my big shapes. Will you paint a Kia? I might put a cheeky little Kia in there, Rhiannon. I might just do that. I might hide it and make it a surprise. But I don't know. I don't know. I'll think about it, eh? Now, one of the most important painting tools in my process is this little number right here. Just paper towels, fold it out, and this is where I'm wiping off my paint. So as Dolan was saying, you know, yeah, these go straight in the trash. So there's a little bit of oil paint in there. And yes, it will contain some cobalt, some cadmium, some lead. Although I only have one of those out, which is that cadmium red there. Most of it's non-toxic. And so what I want to do here is, good, recording? Good. Good. Rolling? 10 minutes? Yep. Yeah, we're at 17:44. Yeah. Yep. Sweet. Right. I wanted to mix up a bit of a cleaner, violety, grayed out blue, a touch of the quinacridone and magenta, a touch of the ultramarine blue, and a touch more cobalt teal. All right. And what I really want to get a sense of is how that waterfall, as soon as it goes down that face of the cliff in a vertical nature, you can't really see those bright silvery highlights. This actually would do something towards communicating the shape of that cliff by using the color of the waterfall. Does that make sense? No? Okay, well, bear with me. I just want to get a bit more dimension of volume in here. Spend just a couple more minutes on this area and get a feeling like I've got something with a bit of that third dimension in there. So working into that gray that we'd established before, split up that waterfall into a few extra streams. And then over here, maybe just a little bit more. Then, with another brush, I'm going to grab a bit of brighter white. Let's go ahead and mix that up now. For highlights. Now, I generally like warm highlights and cool shadows. So if I'm going to paint some water like this, I'll warm up my white by adding just a touch of raw sienna to it. But I'm going to do something else. I got a rule. Okay, so we were talking about value before in tones. And my rule is I like to save that tonal best for last. I like to leave that bright tone till the very end. Save it for last. And so I'll knock down the white by adding in a touch of ultramarine and a touch of burnt umber and a touch of something like raw sienna to maybe warm it up. So even though that looks white, when we compare it to pure white over here, it's actually considerably grayed out. But because it's one of the brightest things on the painting, because of context, it's going to be really eye-catching. It's going to stand out. So again, everything being relative, white compared to what? Bright compared to what? Warm compared to what? Just love the way that waterfall spills over that edge. That's so cool. I'm going to really enjoy detailing that and maybe doing a bit more on that for our live stream tomorrow. That's going to be fun. Okay, I can kind of feel it. If you can feel it, if you're enjoying it, then I click the like button for me, would you? Pleasure to have your company here. If we've never met before, my name's Andrew Tischler. Been a professional artist for a little while now, over 20 years. That's a little while. That's longer than Noah's been alive. Not the Noah, just my mate Noah over there in the United States. I think the Noah was a bit older, you know, so yeah, there you go. But anyway, I digress. But I love to paint, and if you love to paint too, then hey, you're in the right place. If you haven't already subscribed, make sure you do so. But you're watching right now a live stream, and we're going to go about 3 hours in this live stream. And you, of course, you know what you're watching. You don't need me to tell you. But if you want to go further with your painting, then we're going to be carrying on with this thing for another 3 hours tomorrow in tomorrow's live stream. But it's not going to be finished. There's going to be another 244 hours to go in this painting after tomorrow's live stream. But that said, we'll still get a long ways on it. Right. Okay, I'm just mixing up a little bit of a brighter note, but very much the same ingredients and just adding a couple of accents there to our cliff walls. I think we move on from this cliff. I can kind of see where it's going. I'm sure you kind of can too. Let's just go back to art wide there, Nick, and I'll go ahead and get this waterfall in there before moving on from this. I'm glad we went ahead and decided to get that right hand in there, that right hand side. I don't know about you, but it's kind of, I don't know. I'm vibing it so far. I'm enjoying it. Are we allowed to say that about our own work? Are we allowed to have fun here? I'm stoked on this landscape. I think it's going to be, I'm really stoked on it. I think it's going to be good fun. I think painting should be fun. I think it should be fun. I think it's something that we ought to enjoy. Otherwise, why would we do it? But one of the things that I think kills that enjoyment, it just steals it right out from under us, is that feeling like we just don't know where to start, what to do. It can lead to a creative rut, to a creative block. It can lead to despair. Oh, goodness, I've been there. And it just comes from, I just don't know how to make this work. I want all the techniques to get out of the way so that the vision can come through, so that the concept, the idea can come through. And that's what I really hope to share with you here on this channel and over there on the Academy. Anyway, stop plugging the Academy, Andrew. I know, but I want to say one more thing about it. Just one more thing, okay? Promise. One more thing? Okay, thank you. the last thing I want to say about it is that if you're on the fence about that, about checking out the Academy, here's the deal. Right now, we offer a 7-day free trial that is added to that. Like, just as soon as you sign up, you just automatically get the 7-day free trial, no questions asked. Just you got a free trial, check it out for a week. And it also comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. But here's the deal. We're about to ditch the free trial. It's about to be Dunskies, gone. There's no more free trials as of next week. So you got a limited window of opportunity to check it out, see what it's all about before we remove that free trial. I realized something. I'm giving away such a ridiculously good deal. It's so, like, to give people access for free for an entire week to have a look at it. And there's over 350 hours of content there. And, you know, the weekly live stream, you could totally tune into that with your free trial, get a sense of what it's all about, dabble in the community, say good day to everybody. But I realized that is such a freaking good deal. I got to take that off the table. So, hey, check it out. Just check it out before it's gone, because I'm removing that thing next week. Anyway, all right, let's get back to it. That's the last thing I was going to say about the Academy. Okay, great. Palette cam? What's up?
Yeah.
Yeah, yep. We're back.
I've been recording.
Thank you. New take. Thank you, brother. Sorry. Yep. Sprechen English. Yep. Sorry, dude. I'll do a new take on all of them. Good. Yeah. Sweet. We're going. Oh, thank you, Tamara. Bless you. All right. Gonna work over there on that side. I've got an idea of how that waterfall's going, but I want to split it up, break it up, change up the angle just a little bit. There we go. Okay. Tracking. Are we tracking? Yeah, there's one little shoulder that I want to add before getting down into this foreground. That one right there. That'll work. All right. Thank you, Ollie. Appreciate you, man. Thank you. Yeah, tomorrow. So I got my video guy, my production manager, Nick over here, who's on the case. So yeah, no, that's great. But yeah, keep checking in. That's good. It keeps us sharp. Yeah. Heidi, g'day, Heidi. How are you? Do you think you might put a body of water or stream in the puddles in the painting, like was discussed when you did the study of this painting? Yes, definitely. Let's have a look now. So again, one thing that's missing here. Right, let's point at it. So this is my color study, my oil color study. This here is my reference right there. Okay, so what I've done is I've actually raised that lip of these rocks here, which we're about to get into. I've lifted it up and I've given myself a little bit of space for an upper pool, a little cascade right here, and a lower pool that spills off the bottom edge. So this, I'm hoping, will form that path that we talk about, Heidi, you know, that vector that leads from the foreground, a little bit of repoussoir. I'm sorry, Baudouin, for mispronouncing that, brother, but how am I doing? Anyway, bit of repoussoir. So we're going over the rocks. We're looking past the rocks. They're cut off by the bottom edge of this painting. And we got that path that cuts up here and then bam, straight over to our waterfall. So we're going to use this foreground as a device. And that was missing from my color study right there. So that's the one change that I made when I went to block this in. All right. All right. Well, there you go, Chad. There you go, man. Hey, look, I wish you all the best with that. And so I've answered you. There you go. There you go, Heidi. Okay, so again, if you've got a if you yeah, Danielle, you're onto it. Danielle's onto it. Excellent. All right. let's go ahead and let's just paint. I'm getting caught up in the chat there. That's great. I'm just going to bring this edge, clean up this edge before I start putting in my darker shapes in the foreground. So that edge, I want to bring that down. Just drag a bit of that gray from there into that. And I've got a general idea from our really rough, loose SketchUp that we put down first. I got a general idea of those big shapes, of how that cuts across the foreground there. All right. Very good. You know, one of my favorite things to do, can I just share something personal with you? My favorite time of day is in the morning. It's early here in New Zealand. My favorite thing to do, big brush, blocking in a painting, drinking a cup of coffee. Oh my goodness. And I know Tara over there in Montana is fussing at me. I drink too dang much coffee. I know I do, bro. But I tell you what, I think I'm just gonna lean into my bad habit there. I just love coffee so much, and it's my favorite painting medium. It really loosens up those brush strokes, know what I'm saying? But one thing that I think we need to find a coffee sponsor. We need to have some like, we need to have a coffee sponsor. We've actually legit talked about that in the studio here. I've had a chat with the team about it. Guys, we got to get sponsored by a coffee brand. RD Coffee. Bad idea? Good idea or bad idea, as my son would say. Is that a good idea or a bad idea? Knowing me, I try and mix it into my paint. All right. Now, here's the thing that we got to do is we got to take a step back. Take a step back, just walk back, have a look. Are we tracking? Is it working? Now, I kind of get that effect when I'm looking at my screen here, following in the live chat. On my screen, I can see the video playback there, and I'm using that as my wide angle to see, is that actually working here? Are we actually getting somewhere with this? One thing that's standing out, I like the way this is reading, but that imprimatur is showing through. This will not stand. I do not like it. Okay, phew, that's so much better. Let's just knock the edge off. A couple of these little ghosts of imprimatura coming through. And now, boom, doesn't that have so much more gravity? I'm feeling that. Okay. There you go. David would drink Tish brand coffee. There you go. Does coffee make the paint crack over time? No. But it's always moving. I tell you what, too much coffee, it'll turn you into a pointillist. Just want to feel a couple of those rock shelves. Yes, even in the shadows. Now I'm going to get over here, get a little bit of that violet. I'm starting to frisk. I'm frisking with the painting. Quit it. But right here, I like a little bit of that violet. I want to have a little bit more white, brighten the tone up a little bit. That's great. Look at that. Look at that. Oh, yeah. Just want to feel, I want to feel what's happening in those shadows. And often, you know, iPhones are getting so good and better and better and better. It's not an endorsement. I mean, yeah, it's not that I'm an Apple fan or anything, but I got this new phone and I'm looking at the camera and I'm zooming in and I'm taking photos with bright highlights and dark shadows, and I'm able to pull up all that friggin' detail. Now, I shot a lot of these photographs for the reference material before I ever had a friggin' smartphone, right? So I was bracketing. A lot of those highlights are blown way out. A lot of the shadows drop out to black. But even still, even with good reference, it's important to think about getting that information to come through your shadows. But the thing that happens with a really heavily atmospheric day, the thing that happens is a lot of this will start to haze out and turn into you know, more or less a solid color, depending on atmospheric effects. But I still want to have the ghost a slight subtle change in the shape and in some of these shelves. You can see just a little bit of violet sneaking through. Am I making too big a deal about the violet? Maybe, but this is the thing. It's the little differences that make all the difference. All right, I'm going to get in here. Let's get up there with some of that quality and start to bring some of these highlights down. All right. I need a butter sponsor, says David. For those for those of you who don't know, I like to have butter in my coffee. There we go. We just lost half a dozen subscribers who all simultaneously lost their breakfast. You know, some of you are having cream in your coffee. It ain't that weird. So try it. You haven't lived until you've had butter in your coffee. But when drinking butter coffee, you must follow the fat on lean principle. The more cups you have, the more butter you have to add to it. Okay? Otherwise, you'd be cracking. Anyway, back up here. Pay attention. Now, just want to get a little bit of that rocky quality, sharper edge. And around the boundary between light and shade, subtle difference, but I want to sharpen that up with just a couple of these chisel marks. And, you know, this rock, this was made to be painted with a dagger. I think the Almighty was thinking about that. I better do some sharp, harsh lines right here because someone one day is going to paint it with a bristle wedge-shaped brush. And that would just, those two are going to go really nicely together. So I just want to thank him for that. That's awesome. There you go. I just love it. All right. Let's go over here. We'll get a little bit more of this color out. I'm going to raise the tone, as it were. Lift that value. I use the word tone. Others like the word value. I kind of use both. But by value, by tone, what I'm talking about is how light something is, how dark something is. Raise the value, lift it up, lighten it on up. Lower that value, lower that tone, darken it on down. Guess what? We're out of umber. All right. I've never put butter in my coffee, says Raven. Heavy cream and whiskey? Yes. Well, that's kind of weird. But yeah, you got to try it. You got to try it. All right. Now you might be looking at that going, well, that's not much of a highlight, but I just want a bit of warmth in here first. And then I'm going to work in a bit of lighter tone. So I'm going to have something to work over. Working over that imprimatura, but I'm laying down this color. I'm going to work into it with something a bit brighter. Now, my goals for today, we all got to have goals, right? My goal for today, besides earning your subscription, if you haven't subscribed to this YouTube channel yet, besides earning your subscription and having you so curious you want to check out Tish Academy, besides that, what I really want to do is I want to get up into this ice shelf, this glacier that's up here. And I really want to get some of that darker tone in the immediate foreground. I think what we need to do, I'm just going to shift up the plan on you here. I think what we really need to do is we've got to get that distance in there. Now that we've set this context, let's punch this depth through here. Let's get that established, and then we'll come down here. How about that? Sound good idea or bad idea? Yeah, good idea. All right. So we'll grab a little bit of raw sienna, a little bit of titanium white. All right. Stoked. I'm so excited for this painting. I hope you are too. And to my OGs who are watching and wanting to follow along on the Academy tomorrow, and before you ask, yes, we're filming every single aspect of this. In fact, we overshoot everything, but I'm filming every single aspect of the process. And yes, you'll be able to follow along as it gets finished off. I'm sharing everything with y'all. Let's get in there and get these things. Now that's slightly cut off by the camera. I'm going to work back over to the right. Just slightly lighter tone, working back into that warm color that we just put down. Now remember, we're going to play aesthetic chess. We're going to put it up for some cook time. Remember what we were talking about at the beginning. Those two concepts, cook time and aesthetic chess. So it's going to go up on the wall. It's going to cook. The idea is going to simmer there on the back burner. And then it's going to let out a loud ding when it's done. And I'm going to look at that and go, ah, beautiful. That's really reduced down nicely. Now I need to change a couple of things or maybe add a few more ingredients. That's when I start playing that game of aesthetic chess. I move things around so it's aesthetically pleasing. I think about it. Think about it. Make some more moves. Think about it some more. Now, for the most part, most of that work's done in the design process. However, I always reserve the right, as an artist, to change my mind. You have that right too. Couple of lighter stroke, just a few little light spots here, just to get a sense of how that sun is striking that rock. I think it's important to have some idea about where your light's coming from. You know, when we look at this, right, I get the general feeling, I don't know about you, but the light's high, very high up, but I get the feeling generally like these planes are pretty much angling, so they're reflecting that light. It's shining straight down. It's more or less high, nearly midday, but ever so slightly, just a little bit past vertical towards us. I get that feeling. What gives me that feeling? Well, because it's just starting to sneak in there on the edge of that waterfall there. So that's the feeling. So once I've set that in my mind and following along my reference, of course, but anytime I want to change something up, think about making another move, adding a rock, removing a rock, changing the shape of something, I always must consider my light angle. Now, I see a lot of artists that are very inventive with their light, and that's a great thing. But one of the things that maintains this consistency throughout is your light angle. We must consider where our sun is. Where is that sun in the scene? So, with a big landscape, the way an object is lit is relative to the angle of light. What do I mean? Well, look how big this scene is. So if I was to extend this scene beyond the bounds of this landscape, beyond the bounds of the edges that define it, that sun, if I was to imagine in my mind's eye, I look up, where's that sun going to be? It's going to be up here, maybe about 2 feet off the canvas. Now over here on the left-hand edge, it's shining straight down. But over here towards the right, it's swinging down at an angle. So I don't maintain that angle all the way across and through because I need to imagine that this light, even though it's off the painting, this light is going to shine at a different angle compared to what object. So over here on the right-hand side, am I making sense? Are you tracking? Over here on the right-hand side, it's shining more at an intense angle. Down here, it's almost coming straight down. So I think about that. But sometimes if I'm a little confused, I'll put a little tab of tape up on the wall and I'll aim for it. So I'm like, okay, there's my tab of tape. That represents my sun. Right, I'll shoot straight at it. Right, where is it now? I'll shoot straight at it here. So just a little tip if you're working on anything big, even if you're working on something small, but if you're working on something, you want to maintain that constant light angle. Hopefully that will help you. Now, in my Milford Sound tutorial, which is available for download on my website, you'll find it in the Epic Landscapes bundle. In that tutorial, you'll notice that I used a screw that I attached to the wall. I tied some bricklayer's twine to it. I pulled it, and then I moved that string in a swinging arc through this huge scene, and that's how I got the rays of light. The rays of light always must point back towards that light source. The amount of paintings I see with rays of light that are pointing at the light source in one area and then pointing at a completely different source in a different part of the painting. So that's one way that you can maintain that consistency. But there's one thing we can say about nature is it's absolutely consistent. It's perfect. It's almost as if it was designed. I believe it. But that's me. Maybe that's you too. Anyway, moving on. So this cliff wall back here, right here, this shelf of rock, I've got a highlight. I've added a little bit of warmth to this highlight that's immediately downwards from that. I'm moving back. I'm breaking all the rules. Danielle's upset. She was already upset with me, but now she's really mad because I've gone and changed the way that we were working. Now, I want to have less yellow in this combination. I'm gonna shift my camera up so you can see what we're doing here. But I want to have less yellow in this combination. And that will allow it to just punch a little bit further back. Ordinarily, what I like to do is work from whatever's furthest away and come forward. But hey, I'm breaking the rules today. We got somebody from Rome, Italy tuning in. Hello, Angelo. How are you? Yeah. Danielle's like, no way. Yes, believe it. All right, let's mix up a little bit of color here and let's have a chat about this color as we move into this next phase, this next area. All right, because we're getting a little bit critical here. I'm gonna have to make a decision. We'll talk about it as we add this brighter tone in here. I'm gonna have to make a decision about what I want to be dominant, where I want the viewer to really spend the time and focus. Where are they going to be looking? What's the subject? What's it all about? Now, I don't know about you, but I feel like what should be the focus of this painting should be that waterfall. That's what I'm feeling. I've given it pride of place around that third mark, a little closer to golden ratio. For my OGs playing the home game here, you know what I'm talking about. Close to that golden ratio, 1:1.618. Am I right? All right. So that will fall just inside our third mark. So I've given it pride of place. It makes sense that this would be the focal point. So that said, if that's the focal point, and I want to really draw the eye, I want that to be the brightest, most zingiest tone there is on this painting. Now, everything being relative, that will be the brightest white that I have on here. And I'll continue to add to it because remember, right now, currently, it's a gray. Currently, this tone is a light gray. So we still have room to go. But that means this glacier that we're about to add up here, I want to make it maybe a little bit darker. Just drop that volume, drop that tone a little bit there. All right. I think I want to have a bit of a, do something a bit different here. I want to have a little bit of a peak there, change its shape before that line, because this line enters that line. I think just a little bit of a shoulder there on our mountain. Yeah. Okay. Thinking. Need some fresh paper towel. I'm going to wipe off my brush for this so we can mix up a bit of that light gray for our glacier. With just a few colors, with just a simple arrangement, you can actually do quite a lot. But that initial combination of burnt umber, ultramarine blue, and white, that initial combo that we rock with in the very beginning, that's something that it just keeps showing up throughout. It's just so useful, so handy. It's tying everything together. So our ultramarine blue and our burnt umber go together to make a neutral black. And neutral because the coolness of that ultramarine is canceled out by the warmth of our burnt umber. Now that's a pretty light blue. It's pretty far from white. I'm actually out of white, but I'm going to rock with this combination. I'll get some more white out, so I'm ready to go with the next brighter value. Titanium white here. I often will use Remnants white in my blocking because I like the lead. The lead has a fantastic structural quality. It's one of the most archival pigments you can use is basic lead carbonate. It's wonderful stuff. Now don't go brushing your teeth with it, am I right? But come on. Like we can use it carefully and not have any toxic exposure. So I'm a little bit peeved, if I'm honest, that they banned it here in New Zealand. But they banned it sale. But as far as I'm aware, and I just got to say that with that caveat, as far as I'm aware, legally, you can still get access to it via the mail for your personal use. You can get it shipped to you. So I get mine shipped to me directly from Blue Ridge. BlueRidgeOilPaint.com. Shout out to Eric Silver. Eric Silver makes beautiful paint over there in Asheville, North Carolina. This is all I use. I think what this painting really needs is it needs some blocks of ice. It's you got to have that glacier blue coming through. So I'm leaving a little imprimatura right there. And then in my color study, I see a little shoulder of cloud right here. I'm going to add it. Right. Right. 27. I'm going to do another take here, Nick. Yep. Oh, I'll just do a new take so they can all be cut together. There we go. Yeah. Right. Where was I? Adding just a little bit to the the sky here. So I'm adding just these white clouds according to my color study. You see my color study down there? And there's also a bit of cloud you'll see in that reference material too. So some of that I think works really well. Having a little cloud down here, just a touch, but it's breaking apart, it's breaking up. And then back here, we're going to lose that edge. So our mountain, before it cuts off the top of our canvas, before these two lines meet at the top, before we get a converging of vectors, my OGs, right? You know what I'm saying? Before these two things meet and point at the edge of my canvas, I'm going to break that line and obscure it, hopefully redirecting you out this way. That's what I'm thinking anyway. That's my theory. Rightio. So I'll go back to my main camera here and just mixed up a little more of that white. A lot of this will come out, and it's nice to have something muted and gray here in the block end. A lot of this will come out in the next phase as we start to add over it. Now, when you add layer upon layer, when you're working like this, things get better and better and better, particularly if you let those layers dry. Now, there's always going to be little gaps in our brushwork, little bits of texture sneaking through here and there, and that shift in tone and color as we add to the surface of our painting just adds to that complexity, adds to that richness in our surface. Right. Now, what about sky blue then? What about sky blue? I can, Margaret. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. We'll talk about that with the next close-up, shall we? Let's mix up a bit of the sky blue first. And Mark's got a fantastic question saying, can you talk a little bit about brushstrokes? Yes. So here I've got two blues. I'm going to use both of them, which is cobalt teal and quinacridone magenta, and some titanium white, and a sneaky extra. That sneaky extra is a little bit of quinacridone magenta. So ultramarine blue, cobalt teal, titanium white, predominantly, and a little bit of sneaky. All right, so it's a very muted blue. Right now on the block-in, for Margaret and anybody else who wanted to know, my brush strokes are pretty deliberate and pretty structured, but at the same time, I will go back and rework some of them. I will go back and blend slightly in the block-in. But one of the things I try is I just try to cover area and ground and establish shape in this initial stage. Now, it's about getting that material, the material of paint down on the surface. I'm not interested in, even though there is a bit of physical action to my stroke, I'm not interested in saving the paint and making it just go as far as possible and getting this spread out and thin. I want some real volume here. So one of my rules is that with the block-in, I might go half a dozen strokes, but rarely more. And I need to reload. So I'll work for a little bit, reload. And you got to constantly reload. This will actually help you cover more ground quicker, get you more volume of paint, give you a more painterly quality on your surface by just reloading more and just making a conscious effort to mix up more of that paint. Now, the other thing about brush strokes it's important to know is that what I'm really concerned with and thinking about is the way that edges meet each other. I want you to consider this. If I'm going to communicate a particular type of material, and let's say I'm painting the material of cloud. I've never really heard it talked about like that before, but Cloud is a material, right? It's a vapor, right? So if I'm painting that material, I'm thinking about my edge quality and how these edges meet. I'm painting another type of material in the immediate vicinity, but it's made of the same stuff. It's paint. And I'm painting rock. Now, how do I communicate a difference between the material of cloud and the material of rock? Edge is going to have something to do with it. So against these rocks, I'm going to have sharper edges. Against the cloud, I'm going to have a softer edge. So how high I hold this brush changes the way I paint that edge. So a softer edge for that cloud, sharper edge for that rock. Now that might seem like a duh. You think? Of course. But it's amazing. Sometimes when we start out, we think we need a particular type of stroke, a particular type of mark that's our mark, our style. And the thing is that we got to be sensitive to the material that we're painting and shift it up. Remember, I'm the kind of artist, and maybe you're like this too, but I want the material of paint to get out of the way. I want it to get right out of the way, and I want the idea, concept, and vision to come through. When the viewer looks at this, I want them to have the experience of the cliff wall and this amazing waterfall that's just cascading down this cliff. And I want it to speak to the grandeur and creation, the almighty, That's what eats me up. I look at this, and for me, each painting's a prayer. Mainly, it's just saying, wow, thank you. And so, yes, am I thinking about technique? Am I thinking about edges? Am I thinking about my brush strokes? Of course. But it's that little difference of going, okay, how do these things meet, and how can that communicate my material? Now, you could do so much good and go so far with your block-in stage by using a brush like this. So what I'm looking for is versatility. I want to be able to make those lines. I want to be able to make those points, and I want to be able to make those broad strokes. And this is the thing I love about this with the speed and blocking in particular. This brush was made for blocking in. And I tell you what, this brush has absolutely changed the game for me. We spent a while going back and forth and designing it so it had just the right amount of bristles, just the right thinness in that profile. I was actually saying to Rosemary from Rosemary & Co., the fewer bristles on this thing. The prototypes were too thick. Change up the angle. We need this angle. In fact, I'm going to shout him out here, but I just had an awesome painting session out in the field with Freeman White. Shout out to Freeman White. He's a great New Zealand landscape painter. But he admitted something to me, and I'm sorry, Freeman, to be throwing you under the bus here, brother, but he's like, I've actually been using some Tisch daggers. I'm like, no way. Finally, you came around. He's like, they're actually pretty good. I'm like, I know. That's what I'm saying, right? That was funny. Okay, generally, with the sky, it's a little paler down here, and it gets a little more blue as we go up. So I'm going to need to add a bit more saturation or chroma intensity to the color as we start to approach the top edge of the painting. Whoa, that's dark blue. What did he do? Oh no. All right, in the stream. No, I made a mistake. There's no coming back from that. What the heck did I just do? Oh no. Okay, well, I better get a bit more out here and fix it up. Okay, so up here, I'm thinking, oh no. All right, bit more ultramarine. Okay, just bear with me. It'll be okay. I hope. Ah! All right, let's try this again. Now, what I'm going to do is add even more saturation, even more chroma. Let's do it here, okay? More ultramarine blue, more cobalt teal, more quinacridone. And then as we come over here, deeper color. Bam. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't see a lot of really heavy, chunky brush strokes in skies like this. Would be cool, but, and we'll leave some brushwork for sure. You want to be able to tell it's painted. But, one thing I want to do is just sew this color together. What do I mean? You see that little bit of cobalt teal coming through here. So now that I've laid these colors down, I'm just going to come along, now that I have that abundance of material out here on the brush, come along and sew those two zones together. And now we've got a bit of smoothness in our sky. Just stitch them together, drag some of that darker blue into the lighter blue. But this is the other thing about brush strokes. Even when I'm doing a blending like this, it is not this. It is not this. We're not painting a barn. Just change up the direction of your strokes. Yes, to quote Bob Ross, little X strokes, happy little X strokes. There we go. All right, let's come out. Let's see how it's working here. Are we tracking? Yeah, it's getting there. Maybe still a little bit of that line there. All right, that feels better. Okay, and let's go ahead and take it out the top corner. So far, 2.5 hours work. You talk too much, but hey, I tell you what, we got something done. Appreciate your company here in the studio. All right, what do we got? May I have some private lesson in your studio? Okay, Angela. Sure thing, man. I tell you what, you should come down to New Zealand and join us on one of our plein air art tours. Not going to shout him out, by the way. Let me just double check something. Hey, Jim, is the Joe Buckhat page up? Never mind. Well, there goes that idea. If you tried visiting our website in the last couple of days, it has been down. Tish Academy is up and running, but our website experienced a little bit of an issue, and it decided it would reset on us, and so we pretty much lost the whole thing. Fortunately, we had backups. But what I was going to tell you is that we are running an art tour. We don't only run art tours for me, but we host other artists here in New Zealand to run their tours. You know, we know this area so well, and have got contact with all of the private landowners that it makes it really nice taking some of these artists to places that you never otherwise experience. So we're hosting Mr. Joe Paquette here in the South Island of New Zealand. And if you haven't heard of Joe, where have you been? I think he's one of the greatest plein air painters, not only working today, but probably one of the best of all time. I hold him in that high regard. And I just think he's also such a good dude. Really enjoy talking with Joe. Really blessed to call him a friend, but really excited to be hosting him here in New Zealand. So keep your eye on my website. It's tischler.nz. If you are one of those people, you're watching this live stream right now going, you know what? I want to go to New Zealand and I want to paint it. Well, unfortunately, my tours are sold out. Otherwise, you would be able to join one of mine. But I tell you what, I will be putting in an appearance on one of Joe's tours and joining the tour for a couple of days there. It's Joe's gig. It's Joe's tour. But I'll be tagging along for a couple of days there and showing y'all some of my favorite spots. It's a 10-day tour and it's limited to 10 students, and we only got 2 spots left. I'm pretty sure we only got 1 left because we got 1 reservation that just came in. So check that out. Now, I'm painting a glacier, right? Listen up. A little bit of that cobalt teal will reflect that icy, blocky nature. And then later in tomorrow's session, We'll get those shelves to that bit of glacier up there. But here's the deal, that glacier, that's going to be melting away. So what about it? What about it? It's melting. And maybe we're at the cusp of the season. By the way, again, just on that tour, it's 10 days, 10 people, tischler.nz/Joe-Paquet, P-A-Q-E-T -2026. Jim, regardless, I'll get you to paste the link in the live chat, please. Thanks. And the website link is broken, but we're fixing it. But just save it for later and have a look later on. If you're watching the replay, then chances are you'll be able to see that and it will be back up. So apologies, technical difficulties there are. It happens. It's computers. What are you going to do? Right. Yeah, quoting Bob Ross, we don't make mistakes, just happy little accidents. Well, this has been one happy accident. I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling okay. I hope you're enjoying it too. I see just a little bit of that imprimatur. The further we go, the more that imprimatur kind of gets on my nerves here. So I'm just gonna there we go. There we go. There we go. Feeling okay about it. Now, of course, it's chunky, it's loose, it's bold, but do we get the idea when we move back and we look in from a distance? So I might start tweaking some of that atmosphere, but we got about 15 minutes left in this session. And I think what we really need to do in this 15 minutes is talk about how value is going to work in this scene. So we've established this tier of depth, that tier of depth, and the distance of the sky. And so hopefully you're starting to feel like that's coming forward, just one tier of depth at a time. But we need more information. What are we going to do right here? Let's go back to our palette. And let's have a look and see about mixing some more colors. I'm going to wipe all the paint off my brush here. You can see in that little view in the bottom left, you know, that's what I'm doing quite often as I'm working here. So just wipe that off, kick open the little trash can there. There we go. All right. Get a couple of fresh ones out. Very important. The handles of your brushes, just check them every now and again. I saw this all the time on the tour. As my Aussies would say, when I saw it, I started having kittens. I was having kittens, mate. Tell you what. So what happened was I would see students, they would get the paint on the handles and then they'd have an itch on their face. And then they pick a little bit of lunch out of their teeth. And it's like, and then they pick their nose. And I'm looking at them, it's like, how did you get cadmium red in your mouth? What are you doing there? It's not face paint there, fella. But here's the deal. It's because that paint is traveling up that ferrule and it ends up on that handle. And then as it's traveling up, it gets on your fingers. And then you just might have a little scratch or whatever, and you end up with it all over you. So here's the thing I recommend. Occasionally, frequently, actually, check your handles. Make sure that they are spotless and clean. Now these are actually old brushes. You could tell the age of them by how much this top inside corner is worn down. These two are over 2 years old. This one's about a year old, but that starts to get rounder and rounder the older it gets, this inside corner on the dagger. But check out, those handles look brand new. All right? Just clean. So join me, be a clean painter too. It's better for you. It's better for you. We're using some stuff where you want to exercise a bit of caution. That said, the ultramarine blue is particularly delicious. If you're going to eat something, you might as well. Don't eat the paint. Don't. But delicious color, I mean, you know, visually, right? Okay, good side. All right. There are kids watching. All right. Let's go. Burnt umber. Ultramarine blue. And there's still a little bit of white on the brush. Still a little bit of white. And I can go darker still, by the way. Oh, we can go a lot darker than that. Shall we? You don't believe me. Okay. Check this out. Here on my brush, got a little bit of liquid. We've got burnt umber. We've got quinacridone magenta. And phthalo green. Now compare those two. Now with this current palette, that's the darkest I can go. It's very close to black. Not quite, but close. But you can even see a tonal shift between those two. So this is the deepest tone that will go in this session. A deeper tone would be permanent crimson and phthalo green. And that's pretty much as far as I go. So let's go ahead and add this back edge here to our rock and start to paint this thing in, thinking about that deep depth of shadow here. Now we got some reflected light on the shadowed surface of this rock, and I've changed up the face of it because I wanted to get it away from a big cube like a dice rolled out into the landscape. I wanted to shift it from that look, like a block, you know, to something a little more natural. So even though we might see an animal shape in it for now, hopefully that won't last too long, but I wanted to give it a bit more of a bull nose. All right, let me move my camera down so we can get a view of this rock as we're painting it. Yeah. Thank you so much for joining me in the studio. If you're still watching, wow, go you. That's amazing. A 3-hour live stream and you've stuck in there. Really, really appreciate it. If you're watching the replay of this and you've been spending this time here with me in the studio, thank you so much. Really could not do this without you. Wouldn't do it without you. So, you know, you keeping me company here, that means the world to me. Thank you so much. So, I'm going to say again, if you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and do so. My name's Andrew. My friends call me Tish. I like to paint stuff, and I like to talk to you about how to paint stuff, and I'm here to help you make better paintings. Whatever that means for you. If you want to paint landscapes, we got you. If you want to paint portraits, hey, I do that too. If you like still life or wildlife, got plenty of that. We talk about it here on this channel. But if you want to go even further, then check out Tish Academy. The link is in the description down below. It's a cool place to hang out. Exclusive community, over 350 hours of exclusive premium video content, all shot in HD. Edited together beautifully. And for a limited time, you can get yourself a 7-day free trial of Tish Academy. But I'm about to take that trial away because let's face it, I'm a little bit, look, can I just level with you? I'm stupid when it comes to business. Straight up. I'm just, I ain't business smarts. I'm giving it away. I'm giving it away. And I realized that actually this is really good. This is, can I say that? It's a great platform. It's a great product. It's fantastic. Daniel, I so want to do my Trump impression right now, but I'm not going to on the public live stream. But anyway, it's great. It's the best. It's fantastic. Check it out. Lots of painting. Sorry. Oh, there he goes. Now we lost you. It's all good. But anyway, check it out for 7 days. Jump into the content. Mix it up in the community. Join our live stream tomorrow. And meet some friends that you never knew you needed in your life, because our community is the best community online, period. And we've got, like, most of our members have been with us for years. They just stick around, and I love that. And we've really grown together. We've become a family, and I just friggin' love that. Don't encourage me, Renee. I'll do it again. I won't. I won't. Huh? Yeah. That's getting clipped. Somebody's clipping that. Oh no. Yeah. Watch once on the internet, always on the internet. So even though it's just the shadow of that rock, let's have a look here. Even though we've just painted the dark part of it, is there enough there that's going to cause this to come further forward? Now consider this tone right here, this value right here. This value, not the whole thing overall, because we're about to put a highlight on the top of it, but this value right here of the shadow, if it's darker than what's in the background, especially as we go wider, if it's darker than that, we're going to have this effect like it's stepping ever closer forward. But we can go further with it. So remember, we actually mixed up that dark color on our filbert brush, our phthalo green, our quinacridone magenta, and our burnt umber. Now, I hope that's coming through on the live stream. I can see it on the camera. Kind of looking right into my studio light, but hopefully you can see just a few little dark accents will cause that to come forward. Right, one thing I want to have in there is a bit of that reflected light. So ultramarine blue, I'm just mixing up. I'll give you the recipe here. Ultramarine blue, a little bit of quinacridone. Pretty saturated, but I get the feeling like this rock might be wet with a bit of rain. You know, we got a lot of moisture in the atmosphere, right? But even so, even a dry rock like this with the amount of quartz in it, some of it would be shining this nice blue color, reflecting a bit of that light that's bouncing around this landscape. This will help me define a few of these planes a bit further. Now we can work out the details, but just get a little bit of an accent of that color up in there. All right, what about the top? What about the top? Okay, let's have a look. Looking at my reference material, you can see that beautiful rock right there. Where are we? Bam, in this photograph right here. See that beautiful rock in the foreground? There's a little mystery as to where I got the idea to put that rock in. So even though it's big and blocky and we're going to change its shape, it's got a lot of information there about that highlight. And so we're gonna apply a little bit of that here. Goodness me. Screaming into the finish line. 4 minutes to go in the stream. Truth. Now that's a little cold. It's a little gray. I don't like it. So I want to have a bit of heat. Finally, he busts into that transparent red oxide. A little bit of heat coming through. Now we got some moss and we got some lichen growing to the top of those rocks. I don't know about you, but I'm liking it. Hey! No, Nick? Nah, never mind. See, Nick's, see, you know it's a bad joke when Nick doesn't even laugh. Dude. Anyway, where's Gary when I need him? He always has a fresh dad joke for me every live stream. It's great. Shout out to my brother Gary over there. Oh, you're welcome, Kachana. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate your company. 3 minutes down. Let's go ahead and 3 minutes to go, rather. Let's keep adding some more. There we go. Let's get a few of these cracks and changes in angle. And again, it's just the block end. Don't get it twisted. It's just the block end. We want big shapes, no detail. We can get a lot of information down, but just thinking about structure, texture, big shapes, big lines, vectors. leading the viewer from one area of the painting to the next, all tied together with a beautiful golden narrative thread going from one area of the painting to the next. Now, I'm really flipping this on on its head, and I'm sorry to Danielle. Like, we're gonna punch right back into that distance right there. Wait, what? I know. So right there, we got a slope that's beyond our rock. You can see it here in that reference. You see that little slope in our photo. You can see it in the photograph slightly, but you can see how I've used this as a shape to break that line and lift this foreground up compared to that background. So over here, I haven't used a lot of Hansa yellow yet. So just now got into that transparent red oxide and the Hansa yellow. But the reason for the yellow is that moss and lichen, it almost looks a little bit like this slope is grassy over here, but with all of that abundance of shale and quartz on that scree slope way back here, it shows up just slightly green. It ain't grass. There are millions and billions of tiny little rocks. All right, I tell you what, I mean, did I get as far as I wanted to get? Well, maybe not, but I tell you what, it's a big painting. It's a big painting. Let's take a snapshot and see where we went. This was a blank canvas when we started 3 hours ago. If you haven't watched the whole thing and you've just scrolled through to the end, then okay, all right, you're forgiven. It's all good, but maybe go back and watch from the start. We talked about a lot here today. What do we talk about? Well, essentially, number one, if I was ever going to do a painting like this big, you got to have a plan. And you can see my plan down here. I've got an oil study right there. I got a great reference right there. And look, no prompting, no AI generation. It's based on my own experience in this landscape. This landscape depicts this natural amphitheater just outside the Homer Tunnel in Milford Sound in New Zealand. And I've been wanting to paint this for years. So you can see a little bit of artistic license coming through with this mist and cloud rising up. We're going to break that up further and spread it throughout this scene, get it even more atmospheric. But what we really talked about here was not only brushwork and covering that ground quickly, but it's our tonal values and it's our color as we go back into the distance. And today we are working back and forward and back again. So hopefully you can get an idea about where this is going. Tomorrow, for my Tish Academy folks and my OGs alike, if you're tuning into tomorrow's Academy exclusive live stream, then what we're going to do is we're going to finish off this foreground. We're going to continue to block this in, and we're going to really communicate what's going on with this clear water down here in the foreground. Maybe a few clear water techniques. We got 3 hours together tomorrow, exclusive on the Academy VIP tier. And then over here, we're going to continue to flesh this out. And we might even add a bit of that detail up here and start to tighten up this area of our waterfall. But that's going to do it from me. Thank you so much for joining me here in the studio. It has been an absolute pleasure having your company. And I will see you again in the next one. All right. See you next time.